Morena koutou, welcome to today's hearing of the Draft Dog Control Policy and Bylaw Hearing Subcommittee. We have a number of speakers coming in to speak to their written submissions today. Each speaker has up to 5 minutes to present their submission. Members may ask questions if a speaker does not use the full time. A bell will ring after 5 minutes to signal the end of the speaking time. Please note that this subcommittee will not be making any final decisions today. We'll be making recommendations based on what we've read and hear today, but Council will consider adopting the policy and bylaw at its meeting on 31st of July 2025. Now, for our opening formalities, I'll ask for our karakia timatanga to be shown on the screen. And anyone is welcome to join in. Me karakia tātou. Whakatake te hau ki te uru, whakatake te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei Māori ora. All right, item 2, apologies. I have received no apologies, and we've got all of our elected members here. Item 3 is conflict of interest declarations. Does any member have a conflict of interest? No. Okay, then item 4 is the Draft Dog Control Policy and Bylaw Hearing of Submissions. We'll start on page 4 of the agenda with our officers' report, and I'll invite Sam White, Policy Advisor, to speak to the report. Kia ora, Sam.
Kia ora. Thank you, councillors. Very briefly, we undertook formal consultation from 26 March, 26 April. We contacted registered dog owners a couple of times during that month-long period. We made social media posts to advertise it, and we put up those signs in high-use areas as well to try and get as much feedback as we could. We received just under 1,000 submissions, 996, and 87% of those were from registered dog owners, and other interested parties were cyclist groups, cyclists, people interested in bird protection, and commercial dog walkers and animal welfare as well. As you'll see in the report, or have seen, there is broad support in general. Most of the negative feedback came from the proposed changes to Honeana Te Puni Reserve and Avalon Park. Happy to take any questions, but on that, kia ora.
Thank you, Sam. Do any members have any questions to do with the introductory report? Tony? I just had maybe one or two, Sam. We do have some time to fill before our first speaker. The first one I had was about shared paths and dog exercise areas, which was another popular point of discussion in the submissions. And our proposal has done a lot of work actually to pull dog exercise areas away from shared paths, along Petone Beach, for example, and along parts of the Hutt River Trail. I did notice when I was looking at the maps, there's a section, for example, north of Kennedy Good Bridge, where the dog exercise area overlaps the shared path there, and I wondered why we hadn't been consistent down the whole length of that river trail.
That'll be just a map GIS error that we overlooked. So for consistency, we're definitely proposing to have the shared paths being on lead on top of the stop banks, for example, and pulled away. So the dog exercise areas will be, 4 meters away from the shared path there. Yeah.
And so our position is that the entire length of all shared paths in Lower Hutt dogs should be on leads.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Oh, Kerry.
I've got a question for the Hine Road Park. Richard Prowse, sorry, it's left me. So the area where the Garden of Remembrance is, that's proposing that be a dog exercise part, but also we're inside the Richard Prowse Park. Is there a reason why you were considering both?
I'm not sure I know the...
Can we ask that the map be brought up, Catherine?
The memorial area. I'm familiar with the park, but...
I'll just check. Can you hear us when we got the mic on?
I'll just acknowledge Jessica from SPCA joins online. Maybe wondering why we're in silence at the moment. Jessica, we're just dealing with some technical issues, but we have you scheduled for 9:45, so we'll be with you in 5 minutes. Yeah, that's okay. I'll do my best to explain what we're talking about, Sam. I don't know if anyone can dig up the page reference while we're there. Richard Prowse Park in Wainuiomata.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on screen.
There are 2 dog exercise areas proposed, one on each side of the river there. And the question is about the one south of the river, closest to the sports fields. And I guess the question, Councillor Brown, I might be wrong, is why there are 2 areas proposed and not just the one.
Are you referring to map 25 and map 33? Is that on the interactive map? Is that what you're... Because one of them I see is below the river, was already a dog exercise area. Yeah, so there's a little addition at the bottom. We were informed by the parks team that that's no longer a marked field, and that's why it was stretched out. If that's not the case, then...
And are you talking about the addition in beside 33? Oh, sorry, beside 33?
I mean, all of 33, where it was once just the sort of circumference, is now the whole thing is
Right.
proposed.
Yeah.
And then the map below that 25, it's just an addition on the bottom.
Yeah.
You're asking why? 33?
33, I was asking, sorry. So 33, the changes that they can, it used to be just around the perimeter, that it is same as the football park, but now it's the whole 33. Yep. No, that's clear for me. Well, why you increased that?
The proposed increase came from the animal management team, and that's because the park does not have a marked field, and the part to the west is all marked up fields, so dogs, according to the bylaw, aren't allowed to be there. We spoke to the Parks and Reserves team, and they've said, yes, those fields on 33 aren't marked, so we can propose to change that to a dog exercise area. Yeah, so just an additional area, basically.
Yep, thank you.
All right. If anyone has any further questions for Sam, we'll park them up and we can come back to Sam later on. We will crack on with our schedule. Before we do, though, I need to move a motion that the subcommittee, 1, receives and notes the report 2, notes on 25 March 2025, Council approved the statement of proposal for the dog control policy and dog control bylaw for formal consultation as attached as Appendix 1 to the report. 3, notes that 976 surveys and 20 email submissions were circulated to members prior to the hearing. 4, receives and considers 976 survey submissions and 20 email submissions received during the consultation period from 26 March to 2 April 2025. 5, notes that the subcommittee's recommendations on whether to adopt the final dog control policy and final dog control bylaw will be considered by the Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee on 1 July 2025 and by Council on 31 July 2025. And 6, notes that officers will incorporate the subcommittee's changes into a revised final dog control policy and final dog control bylaw, including additional marked changes for recommendation to the Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee. Could I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Stallinger, thank you. Is there any debate? No. I'll put the motion that has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. I declare that motion carried. Okay, we're up to the hearing of submissions. We're going to go very shortly to Jessica from the SPCA. Just before we do, I have one written submission to read out regarding proposed changes to Honiana Te Puni Reserve. A statement on the position of Taranaki whānui, who are the owners of the whenua. We do not support the reserve being off-leash. Dogs on leash are acceptable. Significant portions of the foreshore and the area out at Hikoikoi are off-leash. There is ample space for dog off-leash activities. The reserve and its changing nature and activities are not consistent with the space being off-leash. In our view, this does not negatively impact the amenity value for dog walkers and off-leash activities. As I note above, there is plenty of provision for dog off-leash activities within close proximity to the reserve. Ngā mihi kara, Puketapu Dentis, CEO Taranaki whānui. So just a note there from Kara. Okay, we're going to move into our schedule of speakers now. The first person to present is Jessica Walker on behalf of Anya Dale for the SPCA. Jessica has a 10-minute time slot. Jessica, if you could just summarise your submission, which you can take as read, and if there's time within the 10 minutes, we may have some questions from members for you also. And members, this submission is on page 93 of the agenda. Kia ora, Jessica.
Morena, everyone. Just checking you can hear me okay.
We can, thank you. Okay,
wonderful. Well, thank you very much for having me here to speak to you this morning. As you've indicated, I'll just briefly summarise our submission, which I will take as read, but I'll just highlight a few key points. So firstly, I'd just like to point out that we do support your proposed educational approach to managing the shared pathways. We support your proposal to introduce a limit on the number of dogs an individual can walk at one time, and the proposed management of commercial dog walkers in public spaces through a licensing system. Walking too many dogs simultaneously can compromise the ability of a dog walker to provide adequate supervision and control. This can lead to increased stress, potential conflicts between dogs, and a higher risk of accidents or injuries. Limiting the number of dogs per walk ensures each animal receives the attention and care they need for a positive and safe walking experience. We also support the consistent wording of summertime restrictions. We agree with you that if the penguin nest sites are relocated, dog access to the area must be prohibited. We encourage you to take on broad feedback from your local residents regarding adequate provision of appropriate dog exercise areas. There's a legitimate need for safe and appropriate off-lead areas to provide alternatives to those areas where the presence of off-lead dogs is potentially detrimental. We'd like to point out that on-lead exercise is not a substitute for off-lead exercise. Providing off-lead time allows dogs to work off excess energy. Legally, all dog owners in New Zealand must meet the physical health and behavioural needs of their dogs, and providing sufficient exercise is part of this requirement. We're concerned that some dog owners may be reluctant to exercise their dogs if they have less flexibility about where they can do this within the local area. Provision of alternative designated dog exercise areas to compensate for those removed is likely to improve compliance with any introduced restrictions. Additionally, we encourage you to consider the desexing of dogs repeatedly found roaming. We note that roaming dogs are cited as an issue by almost half of your respondents in your early engagement survey. Other councils have also introduced targeted desexing requirements for dogs that are repeatedly found roaming. And finally, we advocate for the inclusion of a pathway to appeal the menacing classification based on demonstrated steps towards responsible dog ownership. Allowing the opportunity for review of the classification after 12 months incentivises human behaviour change and adoption of responsible dog ownership practices. And I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Do any members have a question for Jessica? Councillor Brown.
Anya, I'm not sure if you can answer it straight off, but do you know of other areas that have successfully tied roaming or menacing dogs to actions like desexing and education programs, and if it's worked anywhere?
So thank you for your question, Councillor Brown. I understand that there are other councils that have introduced it, such as Auckland and Rotorua Lake councils. I don't know if they've been introduced long enough to look at the impacts. Often they're also combined with increased funding to provide desexing drives and initiatives to reduce the number of entire animals that are out there. The literature does tell us that dogs are more likely to roam if they are entire. So we do know that those two things link together. I'm just not sure off the top of my head if there has been any research that's looked into whether the impacts of introducing this into a bylaw has actually resulted in less roaming. It's obviously quite complicated by also trying to contain dogs. So there's other factors involved.
And one more question. Have you noticed in the last 12 to 18 months if there's an increase on roaming or troublesome dogs tied to housing issues, rental housing issues?
No, not necessarily tied to rental housing issues. We know that there is increasing roaming dog issues. I'm sure you're all following the media and those the cases that are happening. So we're seeing more roaming dogs, particularly in Northland area, and also we're seeing increased roaming dogs in sort of the south of Auckland. So we do know there are issues around that, but
thank you.
No problem.
Just one quick question from me, Jessica, and you might not be across this detail, and I can certainly ask our officers to look it up if you're not, but I was just wondering, when you talk about dogs repeatedly found roaming and talk about some councils who have that in their policies already, how do they define repeatedly found roaming? Is that, third time a dog's picked up by animal control officers or something like that?
Oh yeah, good question. I don't know the number of times they need to be repeatedly picked up before it would be considered, repeated. I don't know if it's 2 or 3 or 4. It's something that I'd have to look up.
No, that's okay. We'll ask our officers to look that up, and you've given us some examples there, so they can take a look at that detail. Thank you very much for your submission. Really appreciate SPCA coming in on these issues as always, particularly with the very deep background information you provide about the needs for off-lead exercise and things like that. Very well written submission. So thank you to the SPCA. Kia ora.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Belinda from Eastbourne Community Board is online, joining us online. So we'll move straight on to welcoming Belinda, whose written submission is on page 101 of our agenda packages. Kia ora, Belinda. Hopefully she's listening. Otherwise, we can wait a couple of minutes. Kia ora.
Oh, kia ora. Sorry about that.
That's all right. We're a minute or two ahead of schedule, but if you're ready to go, Belinda, we welcome your submission.
I am ready. Thank you. I was just getting rid of my dog. Thank you for giving Eastbourne Community Board time to speak this morning, and thank you for allowing me to do this from home. I'm speaking on behalf of the Community Board. I want to make 4 points, one of which is in addition to our written submission. Firstly, about the shared path. Eastbourne residents are already enjoying the benefits of the shared path between the eastern bays, but we're already seeing the potential for clashes between cyclists, people on scooters, and dog walkers. Completely agree with the previous speaker that education is needed, but for all path users, not just dog owners. and we would really support moves by council to help with education, especially on a new path as like the one we are getting around the bays. Secondly, not to talk about the lack of off-lead dog areas in Eastbourne. We have a high dog ownership. That's anecdotal. I haven't looked at the data or seen the data, but Eastbourne does have a lot of dogs. We've just heard, and we all know that that dogs need off-lead exercise, but the only off-lead areas in Eastbourne and the Eastern Bays are 2 beaches. These look adequate on a map, but in reality, they're not ideal. They disappear at high tide, and the off-lead exercise just south of Rona Wharf is sloping and shingle, and many people find it difficult to walk on. Also, both the off-lead, that area is close to 2 bird protection areas. As a result, we see dogs off-lead in the bush and on playing fields. We all know that dog exercise areas have huge social benefits for both dogs and their owners. We'd encourage council to establish an off-lead dog exercise area in Eastbourne. I think you're going to hear more about that from more submitters this morning. We completely agree with what they say about needing more flat area or walkable dog exercise areas. Thirdly, we note that Mero has requested a ban or a lead-only policy during the banded dotterel nesting season. We fully support this and encourage, but actually the area that they speak about is already an on-lead area, but there is no signage to say so. It's treated as an extension of the off-lead area to the north. We encourage better signage in the area between Mero Street and Burdens Gate. This is the beach area I'm talking about. And in consideration of a total dog ban around the banded dotterel nesting season. Finally, I want to speak about Pencarrow Road. Since we sent our written submission, the policy teams clarified that the map was incorrect. There is no total dog ban intended for Pencarrow Road. The map was simply applying the existing lambing season ban that's between August and October. So dogs are allowed on lead along the Pencarrow Road for the rest of the year. We'd like to note that now that Gollins Farm has been sold to Greater Wellington Regional Council, there are no sheep there, or shortly there'll be no sheep there. We'd encourage council to review the lambing season ban, which is no longer necessary, and this would mean that dogs are allowed on lead along the Pencarrow Road all year round. That's all. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Belinda. Any questions? Councillor Brown?
Thanks, Belinda. We've got a little bit of time, so I'm going to ask 2 quick questions. The first, with the shared path, is there any, you talked about the stakeholders, so there's dog walkers, there's cyclists. Is there any stakeholder of those 3 that stand out as being problematic? Yeah, that's my first question. More problematic than the others.
I don't think any one group is problematic on its own. It's when you have various users coming together that there's the problem, just as there is on the Hutt Riverbank shared path. Cyclists can be annoying to walkers if they're not using their bell. Walkers can be annoying to cyclists if they're drifting all over the path. Dog walkers can be annoying if they are on long leads or not on leads and not controlling their dogs. It's an education for all users.
Yeah, thank you. Second question is, that you know of, do many Eastbourne users use the Wainoiamata dog park, which is a large dog park, has 2 dog parks within it? I know it's only 10 minutes away because we are regular users of Days Bay Beach. So, yeah, that's my question.
No, I can't answer that. I'm not aware of many people that do that. I guess what I'm getting is it's counterintuitive to seem to have to hop into a car to take your dog somewhere to exercise when there's opportunities so close. But I can't answer that. Sorry, Councillor Brown. I don't know how much use there is.
Belinda.
Thanks, Belinda. Councillor Stellinger has a question too. We'll squeeze in.
It's just one quick one. Belinda, are there any suggestions as to where around Eastbourne there could be a dog off-leash exercise area other than the beaches?
No, I'll stop short of answering that. There are opportunities, but I think that would be a separate review or investigation with council, and I'd suggest that probably Greater Wellington Regional Council could be involved in that as well.
Thank you very much, Belinda, and thanks to the board for your submission today.
Thank you.
Our next submitter is Marty de Boer. His written submission is on page 102 of the agenda. Marty, we'll get you to come over this side today. We're doing things a little bit differently. And I believe, oh, you've got a presentation for us, yes. And we have 5 minutes, Marty. You can take your paper as read and briefly speak to the important points if you'd like. And if there's any time, we might have a question or two. Thank you. Just the button on the right-hand side to turn your microphone on.
Kia ora, koutou, Chair, councillors, members of the audience. Thank you for the opportunity to present my oral submission. I'm Marty de Boer, a resident and dog walker of Lower Hutt for over 30 years, and I've previously worked for Hutt City Council as a principal advisor in the strategic and business planning team. The focus of my submission today is I ask for amendments to proposed changes to the Honiara Te Puni Reserve to allow off-lead access to the Korokoro stream. My first slide shows 3 map views. On the left, the current dog activity area is yellow, with an original shared path that follows the seawall north up to beside the Korokoro stream. At the top, the proposed changes are indicated. The whole green area is proposed to go from dog activity area to on-lead only. Note that we now have 2 shared pathways, one new one roughly adjacent to the esplanade along with the old seawall one. The proposal would significantly reduce the size of the current dog activity area. I suspect that the orange area shown to be retained overstates its actual size. The top strip can be very narrow at high tide, and most people try and respect the dunes and plants by keeping off them. For most specific dog exercise areas, as mentioned earlier, the majority of consultation respondents were supportive of proposed changes, except for those Avalon Park and Honiara Te Puni Reserve areas. The majority of responders to the reserve proposals were opposed. Officer summarised feedback, noted considerable negative feedback with nearly 60% non-supportive from the 562 respondents to this particular area. I support the summary opposing feedback provided in your paper by officers. I, however, have some issues with the statement that the proposed plans aim to future-proof the area in accordance with a cultural and commercial vision for the location. With all due respect to Taranaki whānui, for whom I didn't know their views and plans until they were read out in the statement at the start of the section of the meeting, I understood that the plans for the whare and the final placement of the pods was for the western section of the Korokoro stream, and I am fully supportive of the developments there. I also have issues with the submission from the NZTA. The orange areas in the bottom map that they provide do not even appear to include the reserve, and I note their proposed changes have not had the benefit of adequate consultation with the wider community. They do not adequately take into account the circumstances of both an old and new shared pathway, and in their desire to make the entire Hutt portion of the Te Ara Tupua pathway dog on lead, they appear to be proposing a blanket ban on retractable leads, which can be simply locked in place to make a short one. Could I have my second slide, please? In the last couple of years, we've already lost much of our area, which we thought was temporary. This photo provides a better perspective on the amount of area for off-lead dog activity that is proposed to be removed. It's a bit old. We now have a rowing club and associated car parks have been completed, but it shows the dog activity field that we used to have for throw and run activities. The field area has been recently had earthworks that has raised the soil level up to by 1 metre or more. We now also have a shared pathway for cyclists, as indicated by the green pathway in the slide. Why do we need another one parallel with it on the seawall path to the stream? It would be better to keep cyclists clear of beach walkers and restore and maintain the previous amenity of the area. And my last slide. This view of Korokoro Stream is from behind where the previous picture was taken. This area is popular with local dog walkers and others as a place to clean off the sand off your dogs and for them to have a drink. Many dogs also use it for swimming, not something that would be easy on lead. I used to frequent the Te Awa Karangi River for many years on my dog walks, but over time, the once sporadic toxic algal blooms became regular, with the death of dogs often preceding the warning council texts. Why does this current dog activity section need to be on lead for dogs? In summary, please maintain the current dog activity area from the southern end of Petone Beach in front of the new rowing club to the Korokoro stream, and maintain a boundary edge to the south of the new shared pathway. At least leave the seawall path off lead for dogs and ensure the new shared pathway to the east of the area is the main thoroughfare for cyclists. Bring back the Greenfield dog activity area, or at least provide more information on what has been planned following recent works. I apologise that I'm unable to stay here to hear other submitters today. I need to get to work. However, unless I've exceeded my allotted time, I'm happy to take questions you might have.
The bell meant you have exceeded your allotted time, Marty. Thank you very much. I'll just check those. Sam, have we got Greg Moore here, our next submitter? Or we probably do have time for a quick question or two then. Our next submitter hasn't shown up yet, if anyone has one. Councillors? I just had one question, Marty, and I'm sure people have mentioned the same issue, so I could have asked someone else, which was to do with the algal issue in the Hutt River. And there are warnings issued, as you mentioned, I think by the regional council, but when I hear about them, they're often very far up the river. Taita Rock, I think, is probably maybe around the Melling Bridge, but I don't think I regularly hear of warnings south of there. Is there
Over my years, it appears in intermittent places, and it invariably takes a dog death before particular locations are identified.
Yeah.
Therefore, I've moved to an area that is one of the most beloved in the Hutt, and noting that, yeah, even with the proposal for the shared path, it's still going to be on the edge of the beach where the proposal is to retain it. I don't see why they can't do that further down. I acknowledge Taranaki Whānui, but it's really hard to make submissions when you don't know publicly what the full circumstances are.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. That was my question. And just to note, you had mentioned a few questions I guess you have for NZTA that they are coming in later on today. So if we have time, we might pose some of those questions to them as well. Oh, sorry, we'll take a quick question from Councillor Brown.
I'm just going to ask a quick question since we have time, and I have got a few broad questions that I'll put one to you. Nationally, we are getting, as a society, getting better at socialising dogs. You see it in Bunnings, Mitre 10, and you know, busy dogs are good dogs, tired dogs are good dogs. Do you think as council in this bylaw we're keeping up with that notion of being able to have dogs more socialise and exercise in this this proposal?
Well, generally, you're expanding in other areas which is supported by residents. My issue would be a lot of these issues are not unique to Lower Hutt, and in fact, we try council by council to make changes when they should either be regionally or nationally established as a bare minimum with local leeway to work around the edges. Enforcement is more difficult enough, and with the proposed changes, I can't see it being any easier.
Thank you very much for your time today, Marty, and thanks for your submission.
Thank you.
Just a note, you said you're off to work. I think this is on our YouTube channel, this hearing. So if you do want to listen back to the rest of it, you can join in this evening with a glass of wine or something like that. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. So our next speaker, Greg Moore, hasn't arrived. So the following one is Antonia Crawford. Antonia, if you could come up to the opposite here. There's a button on the right-hand side. There's two buttons there. The right-hand one will turn your microphone on. You have 5 minutes to submit. And if you briefly summarise your submission, then maybe we'll have time for some questions from you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm basically just talking about the Eastbourne Maraetai off-leash beach, because that's where I live. And I basically, in the last 5 years, I moved there in 2019, and it was a wonderful place to walk dogs. You had the whole beach off-leash, and then you also had about 3 parks. You could also throw your balls for dogs. But since then, gradually our dog areas have been eroded by penguin areas and dog off-leash beaches, which does seem a little crazy to me. But anyway, and then also by the fact that they've now made every single green park accessible in Eastbourne off, like you can't have your dog throwing a ball at all, no off-leash. So that doesn't seem extremely fair, especially when there's a lot of families with children and dogs. So that would make life very difficult for them. And there's also, I mean, I think that City Council seems to think that, okay, we've got the beach, but the beach in a northerly gale is actually not very accessible to a lot of elderly people. They're very unstable and they try and walk their dogs up on more solid ground. And so that's where parks have been very good for them to be able to throw balls and stuff like that. And so my point was basically the dog walkers are the only people that use the parks during winter, during the week, during the day. Like I never see anybody on the parks except for people walking their dogs. And I understand that it would be more fair for people who are doing sports, just don't have dogs during the weekends or don't have them in certain summer hours or something like that. But to just say, oh no, no dogs the whole entire time seems to me very restrictive. And also, I think maybe the Hutt City Council hasn't actually realised that the number of people that are now using the dog off-leash area beach has dramatically increased since the roadworks and the closure of parks at Days Bay, etc. So they've all discovered our lovely beach that we used to have to ourselves as local people. And so you're getting a lot of people who come onto that beach who have absolutely no idea of what the rules are. And so there is not good signage. And even for me, I was walking my dog up to the Rona wharf and then putting it on lead and walking past, and then realised that someone said, well, that's actually completely dog banned beach. And I went, well, how the hell would you know? Like, you're walking along a beach and there's no sign on the wharf. So I just think your signage needs to be definitely improved if you want people to be able to obey the rules, because nobody knows what they are. And they're also very confusing, even the ones that are there now. You can't really work out what they're trying to tell you, some of them. Okay, so signage was a major problem. The other thing is fishing. We now have a lot of fishermen on that beach. Now, it's a dog off-leash beach supposedly, but when you get fishermen all the way along that beach, it's no longer dog off-leash at all, because you have to put your dog on lead, otherwise it's going to be going for their bait. I mean, you say you've got your dog under control, but bait and dogs are not a good mix. And also, they leave a whole lot of trash behind, which people who are walking their dogs pick up, which I had photos of, but unfortunately I didn't have time to do any kind of audio-visual thing. But this year I picked up 5 separate tangled messes of hooks and nylon. And if I'm picking up 5, there's going to be a lot more other people who are picking them up as well. So that's a lot of that kind of very dangerous material on the beach. Now, I don't know whether you can actually make it a non-fishing beach. I don't know whether that's actually possible, or whether, but you certainly do need better signage. There was a guy who came down and put his rod up and then left it swinging in the breeze with baited hooks. And he went back to the car park and sat in his car. And I went, when he came back out, because I've been and had a look at it.
Thank you, Antonia. That bell means that your time has expired.
That's it. Okay.
I'll get you to wrap up there. That point is well made and understood.
Right,
Thank you.
So
and you've raised
obviously
some...
fishermen are an issue, and the and fish carcasses everywhere. Yeah, and basically that was all my points.
Thank you very much for a very comprehensive submission, and definitely some things for us to think
Okay.
about and talk about with our
any
officers.
questions?
We don't have time for any questions
okay.
from you, I'm sorry. We will invite our next speaker, Jessie Wrigglesworth. Is Jessie here? No. Okay, what I'm going to do is squeeze in Shelley Dunford. Shelley's here and would like to speak. We scheduled her into the first vacancy, but we have a vacancy now. So, Shelley, you can speak from there. Yeah, it's just the button on the right-hand side. Welcome. Sorry, you haven't got the right button there. Right hand. Yeah, there should be a green light that comes on.
Me and technology. Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, I have prepared an awful lot. I've submitted an awful lot. My son has as well. And I've also given you a point by point one issues that I'm concerned about for Hanarora Tapuni stream, which was my main concern. I think it's been extremely well covered. I would ask, has any survey been done for this area on the number of dogs that use it? Now, my own personal experience is I never go down there without a lot of dogs, and we're talking about a howling southerly. There are always people walking their dogs there off leash. I have never seen any conflict down there because I strongly believe, and I think this is something the council should take into account with dog, and I put in quotes, control, that it's other dog owners that are often the best controllers of their colleagues' dogs. I have no hesitation in asking someone to put their dog on a leash, and I always carry extra bags. And thank you, by the way, for the supply of bags, and I'd like them put a lot more places. I'd appreciate that because I run out when I'm giving them out. I also pick up after other dogs, and a lot of people are like that. So the Honiara Tapuni issue is very, very important to dog owners, not only in the Hut, but also in Wellington. It brings a lot of people from outside into the retail area, into the Hut. It gives the Hut a really good name. It's a gem. Now, you can put substructures in, you can put cultural structures in, you can do all sorts of things, but people want family members, including their dogs, to have fun in the weekend, fun in the afternoon. The rest of us, we walk our dogs, rain or shine, every day of the year. We're not a seasonal sport. We are an everyday sport. We think of our dogs as our interest, our sport, our family members. Sometimes they're service dogs, sometimes they are companions, family pets, or they have all sorts of roles. And I won't go through all that. I'm sure that you can read that anywhere, and you'll have other submissions that cover the uses and the enjoyment dogs can give both mentally and physically. To have that area shared to the degree of not being able to have a dog getting what they need is problematic. And this is where I would like to just make probably my final point, is that I would rather support the council in what I thought they were supporting, which is supporting the dog owners, so that the dog owners can do a jolly good job and a better job of controlling dogs, that you advocate for dog training for puppyhood, that these dogs have to know about obedience, and they'd have to be socialised and exercised every day. That's how we control the dogs. That's how we make the dogs enjoyable and pleasant for everyone. I would like the council to shift their orientation a little bit from control, which is for roaming dogs, which has a function, into supporting good dog owners. And we can grow that. We have more dogs in the Hut than anywhere else. I think that's one of the reasons why I live here. I've lived here an awfully long time. I've had 4 dogs, all of them good dogs. I live next door to bad dogs. No, I live next door, to bad owners. They don't know how to operate their dog. I'm probably going to move because the dogs are bark mad and they are out of control and they're bordering on vicious. That's how important exercise, stimulation, socialising is for a dog. And that should be the priority in any consideration when you're talking about off-leash, on-leash, shared pathways, whatever. Both ends of Petone Beach have issues about sharing. Fisher folk, jet skis, all sorts of things. If people come in with their families in that area, there is a fabulous to and fro of children being educated, dogs on leash when they see children, all that sort of thing. So educate the dog owners, support the good dog owners, and let's free up this menacing attitude towards controlling. And everyone likes to share, but the sharing has to be mutual.
Thank you, Shelley.
It has to be on both sides.
Thank you. We are out of time, so thank
Thanks.
you very much for your submission. If
And I
could just,
didn't cover anything of what
that's
I
all right.
had
If I
here.
could get you to hit that button again. And
There you go.
No, it's still on the right-hand side. Perfect. You're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the submitters, but I'm glad we could squeeze you in. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Shelley. Our next submitter is Lee Davidson. Is Lee here? Yeah, Lee, I'll get you over this side. Thank you. It is the button on the right-hand side to turn on the microphone. You have 5 minutes to summarise your presentation. It has been read, and if there's time, we might have some questions from members. Thank you. Welcome. Sorry, Lee, I'll just get you to check that microphone. It's the right-hand button.
Right-hand button,
There we go.
Sorry. So I live in Korokoro and I have a 2-year-old border collie who needs a lot of exercise. So I wanted to submit about the Honiana Tapuni Reserve, which is a place that we go very regularly, multiple times per week. Living in Korokoro, it's the only off-leash dog area that's really a reasonable walking distance from where I live. So it's a wonderful resource, and it's so great for a dog that needs a lot of exercise. So I'm concerned about the proposal to significantly reduce this area, particularly as a local user. During the week, it's usually fine, but on the weekend, as the previous submitter said, we get a lot of people from outside the area coming. It's very crowded. So I'm concerned about reducing that area and losing that amenity and having a lot more dogs in a smaller space, particularly for dogs that are not necessarily there to interact with other dogs, but might need a bit more space. Which my border collie sometimes does. We like to go over particularly to the western side of the Korokoro stream and around that Korokoro stream area. So I came in and I heard the previous submitter, I think his name was Marty. He expressed the arguments very articulately in wonderful ways, so I really probably would just say I would endorse the arguments that he's put forward about it. I would love to see the path along the seawall retained, the grassy area where dogs could run and dry off, and the stream area where they could swim retained. I'm unclear about why the western side of the Korokoro stream is currently being proposed to be on lead rather than off lead. So that may have something to do with iwi requirements. I'm not sure, but there's very often nobody there, so it's a great area for running the dog as well, and we clean the beach when we're there as well. So that's, I think those are my main points: accessibility for local people and not losing that amenity that we have. And as the previous submitter was also saying, in terms of conflict, I've spent a lot of time there. I've never seen any conflict between the current use of the seawall path and dogs. My dog is just running from one beach to the next beach to get a stick. So thank you. Those are my key points.
Thank you very much, Lee. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Councillor Brown.
The submissions that we have been receiving in the interest is higher than most other areas of council. So there's a lot of interest in this area.
Yeah.
I didn't have time for a question to Shelley. There's a lot of willingness amongst dog owners. Council has to do the regulation, but of a potential advisory grouping of how to be positive dog owners. Would you be interested if there was a formation of some sort, which is aside from this? There's a lot of positive dog ownership around that are more knowledgeable than us. Do you think people would be interested in getting a group together?
Yeah, I think they would. I'd certainly be interested in being part of that group. I feel that, it's just come up for me because of this, these proposed changes to start thinking more about how the dog owners interact with council, and I don't feel as informed about it as I could be, but yeah, I'd be really interested because I'm a recent dog owner, but I can see the real need for catering for this in a way that suits lots of different kinds of recreational users and managing that conflict and the positive dog ownership, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lee, for your submission and for your love and care for that part of the beach. We appreciate you coming in. Our next submitter is Fenrir Fraser on behalf of James Fraser. The written submission, James's submission is on page 135 of our agenda. Is Fenrir here? Yeah.
James, I'm here on behalf of Fenrir.
Oh, okay, sorry. My notes are the wrong way around. James, please feel free to join us at the table over here. The microphone's already on for you. We have 5 minutes for you to work through your presentation. If there is time, we might have a question or two for you. Welcome.
Cool, thank you. Marina Koto, first of all, it's my first visit here. I've lived in the city for many years, so I feel strongly about this. Thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for the work you do for our wonderful city. This is Fenrir on the screen. He's Ken Terrier. Fenrir is 6 years old. I'm here to present on his behalf. Fenrir has been walking in Avalon Park every day since he was 6 months old. And before him, Rosie Dog, our late greyhound, walked there for 5 years previous as well. Recently at Avalon Park, the dog track, as we like to call it, was marked with painted signs on the pathway, which makes it really clear where the dog should be walked by all owners. And I feel that was a very positive step. Talking about responsible dog ownership before, that makes it really clear where you can and cannot walk the dogs. I walk Fenrir, or sometimes Fenrir walks me, every day, sometimes multiple times. If the kids in the summer want to go for a walk, then we'll walk as a family group. It's a really positive thing for all of us. It's particularly good for my mental health. I have never seen an issue with particularly my dogs or any other dogs. We see the occasional dog who maybe has soiled in the area and it doesn't get picked up, but other than that, I've never seen an aggressive dog. I've never had a negative encounter with a member of the public. In fact, it's the opposite. This is the chance for particularly kids in the neighbourhood to come along and have a really positive encounter with a well looked after dog and a friendly dog. So I said it's a very positive thing. Recently, Avalon Park, is this going to work for me? Do I just... I'm pushing the big arrow button. There we go. Oh, this is Fenrir. It's just a little slow. I'll go one more along. This is the new skate park that was put in. I presume the new skate park is why this particular area is under scrutiny for bylaw changes. The skate park is wonderful. I was extremely excited when it was announced. I was a big supporter of it. Our children love it, as do my adult friends. I love walking Fenrir past it and see how well used it is. It is heaving with people, even when it's raining and even when it's 8 o'clock at night with the lights going. This particular slide shows the distance between the dog path and the skate park. As you can see, there's quite a distance there. So it's not as if we're walking particularly close to the skate users. Fenrir is a very curious dog. He's never strained at the lead to try and get into the skate park. He really just blocks it out and is focused on smelling dog smells, which are all on the dog park. The flip side view is the view of Fenrir from the skate park. So this is the closest corner of the skate park to the closest element of the dog walking track. And as you can see, there's quite a good distance there. The skaters and their families and their friends and the basketball players and the kids on scooters, they don't even notice that the dogs are walking past. I have several friends in the neighbourhood who also walk dogs there on the daily basis. Between our small group, we walk independently at all hours of the day, and we all have very similar feedback. I realise I can't formally represent them here, but the conversations we've had are all the same. The skaters do their skating, the basketballers do their basketballing, the families do their picnicking, and the dog owners walk their dogs. And there's really no collision between those groups. That transition was my daughter's insistence, sorry. That's all from Fenrir. That's all he wanted to get across today. Thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them.
Thank you very much, James. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Brown?
Thank you for your presentation. Quick question, how many years have you been walking Fenrir and the dog before, all up?
The dog before Rosie Dog, so combined, they overlapped by 2 years, so that would be a total of 8 years.
8 years, and you have had no major negative interactions of dogs that you've
No major
seen?
negative interactions with other dogs or with members of the public.
And you walk them daily, was it you
Yes,
said? Okay,
every
thank you,
day. Yep.
thank you.
Yep, cool.
If I could just come back, James, and the slides are gone, but your photo looking towards the skate park
Yes.
from the outer perimeter. In fact, both photos, there was a reverse angle on it as well. That
Yes.
particular pathway is not a dog pathway. Is that correct? Is it
No,
marked?
that is on the dog pathway.
No,
yes.
the outside one is, but the path.
It's the closest one to Fairway Drive.
Yeah,
So there's a
yeah.
bus stop.
I mean the path coming off perpendicular, running
Oh,
between
running through the
bus.
skate park?
Yeah.
No, that is not part of it. No,
And is it
that's
clearly
just
marked?
the entrance into the skate park.
Yeah, is that clearly marked as not a dog
The
path?
dog path is clearly marked with
Yeah.
spray painted dog symbols. There's no marking on
Sure.
that pathway.
It's all
So
you
there's
down
no
there.
sign saying no dogs
Yeah.
into that path.
Thank
is what
you
your
for
question
that
is.
clarification. That was what I was looking for. No questions from Councillor Stander. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you to you and to your daughter and to Fenrir for putting together a very good presentation for us.
I'll
PowerPoint
pass
skills.
that on to them both.
Very good.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much for your
Thank
time.
you. Okay, our next presenter is Harry Singh from NZTA, Waka Kotahi. Harry is with us. The written submission is on page 141. Welcome, Harry. You've got 5 minutes if there's time, and you can take your submission as read. If there's time, we might have a question or two for you, I think. So welcome.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. So Harry Singh, my role at NZTA is the project manager for the Naranga to Petone shared pathway, which is coming up for completion next year. So our submission is with respect to that shared pathway, as well as the other segment of the pathway, that's the Melling to Petone section that's already been completed and has been in service since 2023. So what we've provided in our written submission is that dogs are welcomed on the shared pathway. However, we request that the council mandate the use of fixed, restraints, fixed leads rather than retractable leads. The shared pathway, as many would know, would be used by at least over 1,000 users, even from the onset of it being open to public. And a lot of cyclists would use that path at high speeds. At speeds, exceeding even 30 clicks an hour. As you would know, many cyclists cycle on the shoulders of the highway. They ride very fast. So the danger with dogs being off lead on the path is both to the dogs as well as to the users, leading to some, fatal crashes. So that's the key attribute that we've put forward in support of our submission. And the second factor is that the entire pathway is going to be home to a lot of our wildlife. So we know that there have been several instances in Wellington region with, little blue penguins and other marine wildlife being attacked by dogs that have been off leads. So that's our second supporting reason to ensure that the dogs are on leads on the pathway to protect our wildlife. So happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Harry. And if I could just lead off with the questions. We have had a couple of other submissions in writing and even verbally today asking about NZTA's position. One from the Hut Cycle Network, I think it was a written one, talked about how the status of dogs on the shared path wasn't resolved as part of the consenting process. It was pushed out for a bit further. Another one today asked if there'd been any consultation. So I'm just wondering, fully clear on what your position is on dogs on leads on the shared path. Yeah. How did you arrive at that position, and was there any public engagement or consultation?
Thank you, Chair. That's a great question. In fact, this matter first was raised by many cyclist groups and the submitters to the resource consent for the project. So back in 2020, when the consents were sought for the project and the consultation occurred while it was during COVID, I think there was limited public interactions. However, there was lots of feedback provided electronically, and in those engagements, it came up that the pathway should have controls for dogs. At the time, we could not influence, that condition to be, mandated through the resource consents because I believe, obviously, the appropriate policy or the process is the dog bylaw policy that Hut City oversees. So hence we noted that public and the submission that we received, and today we are submitting on the policy in response to that earlier engagement and concerns people raised.
Thank you. The other question I had was around consistency. You are a nationally operating organisation. Is your position on this particular shared path the same as it is for other shared paths around Wellington Harbour in particular, but around the country?
That's a question I would have to defer to our internal policy people to comment on. This particular matter for this pathway, the catalyst to raising this submission has been the feedback we received from a lot of the submitters. So that's one factor. Secondly, as I mentioned, this pathway is built through quite a unique environment, especially with the interface with the marine ecology. It's not common on many other pathways. So that it is a bit special in that sense. So I would say hence our strong request to, have controlled dog use on the path. I will take your question back to our policy team with regards to what should be the stance nationally, and I would think that would be case by case basis.
Thank you. I understand that. Is any other questions? Councillor Stellinger.
Thank you. Just be interested in a bit more information, if you have it, in relation to the preference for non-retractable leads. Is there some kind of studies or statistics about the impacts of the retractable ones those leads being unsatisfactory to keep the dogs under control?
Yeah, so not necessarily in the sense that we've done any statistical analysis on it, but it's purely by judgment. We would know that when the leads, like retractable leads, are used, often they are operated in a way that the dogs can extend the leads and enjoy the walk more freely. Here, it presents quite a danger if the owner just inadvertently forgets to click and control it, because a lot of people do use them these days, and especially hearing from some of the other submitters, if they'd like their dogs to be enjoying their walks more freely, it's likely that people will revert to using those leads. Hence, we wanted to insist to bring that more clearly, that if those leads are used, either they need to be mandated to be operated while they're on the path, to be clicked at a setting so that they are not operating more freely, because the dogs can wander into the path and lead to sort of crashes and consequences. But to answer your question, no, we haven't done any statistical study. It's very much about what the human behavior could lead to, and all we need is one or two, unfortunate incidents, and that could be, quite fatal for people.
Okay, thank you very much, Harry. Thank you for coming in and making NZTA's position on this very clear. Thank you. We appreciate a clear submission. Caroline Gardner. Do we have Caroline Gardner? No? Maybe we'll try swap things around if we can. Do we have Lyle Huiza? Lyle, feel free to come and make your submission now, and maybe Caroline turns up, we can swap you two around. Lyle's written submission is on page 163 of our agendas today. Welcome, Lyle. You have 5 minutes. If you can be brief in your comments, then there might be some questions for you, and you've figured out the microphone already. Welcome.
Thanks very much. For about 15 years, I've walked my dog down Petone Beach. Family walks with the dog Saturdays and Sundays. And one of the things that we've discovered as our dog's got a bit older is that he isn't so keen on swimming in the ocean, but he loves swimming in the Korokoro stream where it comes out. And we love being there. Sometimes, it's an ever-changing sort of natural area. The water is still, I think it's fresh. I don't drink it, but he does. And I feel that area is actually sort of isolated from where I think the cycle path is going through, because I use that cycle path as well. So it's something we don't want to give up and would hate to give up. And that's, I just wanted to sort of come in and express that. It's, if I'm reading the rules right, where we go and park near where the new rowing building is, we would have to go left only. We won't be able to take our dog right. So one, we're not going to get to go and see all that. And two, he's not going to be able to have a swim there anymore. And I just don't know what the benefits to outlawing dogs from that area are. So I guess I have a question for you.
Thank you. That's all you've got to say.
That's all. I just wanted to express that view.
Can clarify for you that the proposal for Honiana Te Puni Reserve, the area you described as the right, I think you called it, is not dogs excluded, but it's dogs will be required to be on leads on there to access that area. That's what's proposed.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Which is better than nothing, but I would love for them to be able to swim in that area. A lot of people go down there and they let their dogs swim there. And the great thing about it is you can actually have one person on one side and someone on the other side and encourage your dog, swim to me, you know, that sort of thing. And there's nowhere else you can do it. And you can't take them swimming in the Hutt River because of the algae in the summer. And yes, you could go up Korokoro Stream, but that's a totally different sort of environment. You're hard pressed to find a pond there. Yeah, I just wanted to say that.
That's
Have my
okay.
say.
Yeah, thank you very
Thanks
much,
for that.
Lyle. Are there any further questions? No? Thank you, Lyle. Thanks
Cool,
for coming
thanks,
in.
team.
Still no Caroline, Sam? Caroline? No? We can move on to... Okay, yeah, we'll just move through in order. Parker Jones is here. Kia ora, Parker. We'll invite you to come up and give your presentation. We have a 10-minute time slot here. Parker's written submission on behalf of Miro is on page 169 of our agendas. 10 minutes, Parker. Looks like you've got a presentation for us. If there's time within the 10 minutes, we may have a few questions for you at the end. Welcome.
That's fine. Thank you for this. As you know, we're in our 10th year protecting and studying the dotterels, and we just opened up at the Wellington Airport, of all places, as our 4th area. Just to remind you, which most people don't know, I think the prettiest bird up there is, of course, the banded dotterel, but they've got the same status as the blue duck, the Theo, and also the giant spotted kiwi in terms of their endangered status. So we're very fortunate to have them nesting in front of us at Eastbourne. To give you an idea, we had 20 nests this last season. The blue represents the nest hatched successfully. The red said they failed. There was 10 pairs at Eastbourne. Out of that, we got 3 fledglings this year, which was fantastic to get any fledglings out of Eastbourne. Our main issue at Eastbourne has been domestic cats, but I talked about that last time I was here. Currently, there is no, this is your current proposal. There's no change to that area, and it looks like there was no actual area. I mean, 20 years ago, that area did not exist. It was, the water, as you know, was coming straight up to the wall. The dotterels like that open area, and their main predator was the blackback seagull, so they need a clear open area, so that beach is perfect for the dotterel nestings. It's currently, you have signs along the promenade wall that say that the beach area is off leash, and also the footpath is on leash, and of course the dogs must be under control. So even though it's not in your actual formal documents, you do have these signs all along the wall. What we do to try to mitigate the issues of dog walkers is we know exactly after 10 years of where the dotterels are nesting, and it's amazing. They actually, the same pairs will stay together in the same area within 10 meters and fight those territories from year to year. So with the help of the local scouts, we put up the temporary fencing, and you can see on the left-hand picture that people keep out of the area. You can see the high foot traffic. So we have like 6 walkthroughs where they can walk through the nesting area. If one of the birds nests in those walkthroughs, we'll actually just move the fence, right? And it does happen. The problem is, though, the chicks, once the nest hatch, they're off the nest within 2 days, and they're off running, and the parents are madly following them, so they're everywhere. So amazing little birds. We've had issues where this dog was actually, so I've got, as you know, nest cameras on the nest sites, where this dog was targeting the nests and chasing the birds off the nest, so the dog could smell it, was having a lot of fun just chasing dogs off the nest. And then more seriously this year, we were lucky our bander, our L3 dock-approved bander was out trying to catch the juvenile chicks. And a dog had this chick who then successfully grew into a fledgling in its mouth. And the dog owner was off leash on the foreshore, which is legal. And the owner was just standing watching the dog molest this chick. Fortunately, Shane, our bander, was out there and was able to get the chick out of the dog's mouth. And the owner just took off. But we were very fortunate that the Hutt Animal Services was able to identify that owner very quickly, within 24 hours, and contact that owner. And we're not sure what they did with him, but definitely. So that's a real worry, because we do rely upon volunteers for Eastbourne. We don't want to piss off the dog owners, right? So what we'd like to say is we'd like to have that area on leash during nesting. So the nesting starts in August and ends up in February. And that's usually when the fledglings, so the nesting's actually finished usually in late December, January, but we still have fledglings running around until they fly away. And of course, this is what the dog caught, was the fledgling. So we'd like to see that area specifically from Miro Street south to probably Lions Rock as on leash during nesting season. And to be honest, most of the dog walkers do walk with their dogs on leash through our walk-through areas out to the foreshore. But once again, the chicks are out in the foreshore, so it's dangerous for them. Also, the current signage is a bit, so these signs are right next to each other at the south end of the promenade wall. And you'll notice on my sign, I've got in, please keep your dogs on a leash. And of course, that's just a nice please during nesting season from August through February. But of course, right next to it, and I've had complaints saying, well, this is confusing, what's going on? So when I was talking with Duncan about it, he was the one who made me aware of this proposal, so that's why we didn't do it before, make a submission previously. So yeah, we'd like to also see some new signage because this current signage is confusing too. And that depends upon what you decide to do with this area in terms of leash free or not. And then really, I'd like to as part of Miro, to formally thank Hutt City Council for your help with our signage, for your help with our cat control. And I'd really like to say thank to Duncan and his team, who within 24 hours had identified the culprit. And then we also had a meeting with Duncan and his team on site to discuss what we could do. And that's when I was made aware of this dog control happening every 10 years. So I'd really like to say my thanks to Duncan.
Thank you. Thank you, Parker, for your submission. Are there any questions? I have one or two. I was going to ask you if signage would help. And thank you for highlighting that the signage is unclear and actually incorrect, inconsistent with what's shown. When you showed the areas, there was the south end of the yellow area, which is a dog exercise area. Everything not designated dog exercise area does require dogs on leads, so I'll hopefully get that sign fixed up for you quite urgently. Couple of questions. One, there's another submission that we have received that someone suggested perhaps the Dottrells could be relocated to south of Burdens Gate. Is it at all possible or practical? You don't provide nesting boxes or anything like that. They come of their own free will.
As you know, I do the Days Bay Penguin Colony, so no, it's totally different. So no, the Dottrells picked that area. It's a perfect area for them. It's clear, open, wide spaces because you guys come in and help weed it. So there's the weed spraying is actually going on now in between the breeding season, so that's just happening. Because if the Dottrells lose sight, their main predator was the black-backed seagull previously, before humans. So they need to have a sight around the nest sites to see what's coming. So if it starts to get weedy, that type of stuff, then it would, but no, they picked that area. There's actually 10 pairs there. It's quite a critical and quite a large population of our Dottrell breeding in the 4 locations. I mean, there's 4 pairs at the airport, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Thank you. I assumed that was the answer. And just in terms of on-leash or off-leash on that beach, it is an on-leash area currently. Your submission is that we should propose on-leash, particularly in that breeding season. Do you think it's worth having different rules in different seasons, or is it easier to enforce what's actually currently the situation on-leash year-round?
No, but your slide said it's an off-leash area. I mean, your sign says currently that's an off-leash area.
Yeah, the sign does. That doesn't actually match what the bylaw says. So I think it's an issue with the sign, yeah.
So that's very confusing, yeah.
Yeah, but do you think it's worth having different rules in different seasons, or is it easier to enforce what actually is the rule currently on leash at all
No,
times?
again, because Miro, we've got over 100 some odd volunteers, because we depend, and a lot of those, like our cat and dog owners, we've got we're really touchy-feely here. And it's worked well by engaging with the local people through, and to be honest with the Eastbourne Facebook page, I didn't mention the dog attack. I put it into an article because it would just be, because we rely upon Eastbourne for volunteers.
Thank you. Any further questions for Parker? We've got time if you've got any questions. Councillor Brown?
I guess my question is, if it was to be the gold standard, like if we could just midget wand your key wishes to keep the Dottrells safe, what would the top 3 be from us?
The big thing that I tried to get last time through the cats was cat issues, domestic cats. What I really wanted to do is we've been donated 2 live catch traps. We've got a chip reader. So of those 20 nests, normally our goal is to get 1 fledgling per 2 nests, right? So Eastbourne out of 20 nests provided 3. Bering Head, 10 nests, we had 15 fledglings. To give you the idea, at Bering Head, we trap everything, feral cats, the whole thing. So what I would like, because again, we rely upon Eastbourne for our volunteers, I was really trying to push that message of keep your cats in at night, right? And you guys have supplied the brochure, which I had the scouts deliver to within 1 kilometer of the nesting areas. So what I'd like to have done is to be able to We set the trap at night, I check it in the morning, immediately release the cat, take the chip, contact HUD Animal Services, have them contact the owner and say, hey, listen, we would, can you just keep your cat in it now? Your cat's actually hoovering up the eggs. They eat the eggs, and they actually wait till the eggs are just ready to hatch. They're smart. They're getting the most protein out of the eggs. But that was turned down, so I was told we have to take that cat to the SPCA. The owner would have to then go down there, pay so much money to get the cat back, and to me, that would just piss off the Eastbourne residents, and that's something I can't afford to do. Yeah, I
Thank you, Parker.
I think you know how Eastbourne residents.
We'll continue to talk about cats offline. We're on dogs today, but thank you very much for your submission.
And the reason I'm going for that off season is to placate and let the dog owners go out there. When there's no birds there, it's a great area for them to walk their dogs. I'm happy for them to do that. Yeah, so that's fine. So I think it would be a great way to do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are 5 minutes ahead of ourselves in time because we had a no-show from Caroline. I'll just check, Sam, did Caroline show up, Sam? No Caroline. So our next scheduled presenter is at 10:55, Caroline Bray, different Caroline. We will take Caroline. I'll just ask you, actually, we were going to take a quick 5-minute break and we'll get back onto our schedule here. We've had a request for a toilet stop, so we will come to you in 5 minutes. Thank you. We'll just take a break until then. Thanks. All right, thank you, folks. We're back on schedule at 10:55. Caroline Bray, kia ora Caroline from Wainuiomata AFC. The written submission is on page 175 of our agendas. It has been read, Caroline, so feel free to summarise, and if there's time, I think we might have a few questions for you. Kia ora. Sorry, just the button on the right-hand side of down here. Yep, the right-hand one. That's it. You're on.
Sweet, thank you. Kia ora koutou, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name's Caroline Bray. I'm the junior convener at the Wainuiomata Football Club. We're submitting an opposition to the proposed designation of the park area north of Richard Prowse Park as a dedicated dog exercise area. This space is actively used by our junior football club and is vital to our operations. We currently have around 300 junior players in the club this season, which represents significant growth in recent years. It's a great reflection of the community's engagement with sport, but it also brings real pressure on space. We rely on the Northern Field area for our pre-season training, especially when the main grounds at Richard Prowse Park are still being used for cricket. And during the season, it serves as our overflow training area because we only have one dedicated training pitch for all our junior teams. This season, we have 24 junior teams. This is not just a patch of unused land, it's a well-used community space that supports the physical activity, health and social development of hundreds of tamariki. They deserve to train and play in a safe, open and clean environment. Introducing a designated off-leash dog area here would create conflict in the use of the park. We already have instances of dog droppings left on the marked fields at Richard Prowse. We think formalising this area as an off-leash zone would just increase risks and create unnecessary tensions between dog owners and other users. We also note the proximity to a kiwi protection zone. Even a well-behaved dog off-leash can pose a risk. Encouraging off-leash activity close to this sensitive conservation area doesn't seem compatible with the city's environmental goals. And we already have a dedicated dog park. We don't believe a second exercise area in this area is needed. So we ask this area be kept as a shared green space available for community sport and recreation. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Any questions for Caroline? Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Caroline, and congratulations on the increase in Wainuiomata football. I know that it's going great guns at the moment, so congratulations on that. Question around on the main part, on the perimeter. You just did mention that you have had an issue with dog droppings, but have you noted any other issues of the dogs around when they've been walking around the edges? Because I know that's off lead as well, isn't it?
In general, most users we see there during training times are on leads around the edges. The issue is dog droppings on Saturday and Sunday mornings before games. You know, we do active sweeps of the fields and regularly picking up dog droppings.
Can I just ask you a little bit more about this, particular bit we're talking about,
yep.
The extra bit that's proposed to become a dog exercise area, you said it's used a lot because of your large number of junior teams. There's no marked pitches on that?
There's no marked pitches on that at that age and grade.
Sure.
That's cones and movable goals.
Sure. And how often is it used during season?
So our junior pre-season training starts around March, April and flows through till the end of August. So generally we try and use that over the bridge area to save pressure on the main training pitch at Richard Prowse Park. So normally the younger teams will train over the bridge there before it gets dark because there's, they don't require lights and we don't have lights there. Appreciate that we've had drainage put into Richard Prowse Park this year and we're really hopeful that means that the fields will last a bit longer. I'm going to go and check there today before deciding whether we can train there this evening. Ideally we would like to bring our under 7 and under 8 home weekends back to the Richard Prowse Park area and that could possibly be a location to use. Currently we've asked the council to mark out grounds at Brian Heath Park. That causes conflict with the cricket club because pressure of lots of supporters standing around the cricket pitches, is not going great either.
Thank you. And again, back to this little particular part, your season's April to August. Do cricket use that part of the park during their season, do you know?
No, I don't believe they do.
Yeah. And I guess where I'm kind of heading with that is, do you think it would be feasible to have that area used as a dog exercise area in summer, but not in winter, to
I
exclude
might.
dogs
I
in
don't-
winter. Would that be practical for your use of the park?
Yeah, I don't see an issue,
Yeah.
any issue with that.
Okay, something for us to consider, I think.
Yeah. We run some end of season junior academies, which we try and utilise Richard Prowse Park, but we managed to work that around the cricket usage.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your submission, and also to your members. I noted a lot of them did our survey as well, so thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Kia ora. Our next submitter is Catherine Petrie. Kia ora, Catherine. Catherine's written submission is on page 181 of our agendas today. The microphone's already on for you there, Catherine. You have 5 minutes to speak to your presentation. We have all read it, and if there's enough time, you may have a question or two from members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, I'm a Lower Hutt City resident and have been for 43 years. I specifically chose to live in the Western Hills to be a walking distance to the Hutt River walking areas. In those 43 years, I've had 14 dogs registered with the council. Currently, I have a 5-year Aussie Terrier and a 2-year-old Irish Setter. I'm a life member and current committee member for the Avalon Dog Training Club. I've instructed on an unpaid basis for the club for 39 years. I'm a specialist in baby puppy and puppy training. I estimate I've assisted around 3,000 dog owners to develop canine good citizen skills. I've been president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, show secretary. I contributed to the development of the original Hutt's dog control policy. Nevertheless, the earlier survey and advice on the review was not sent to me or my husband. I would not have known about it if another club member, fellow life member who was also original submitter on the dog control policy, sent me a message saying, could I open for him the policy and the survey questions. I couldn't do it. I did go into the police computer to get it done and was able to eventually answer from there. I'm not in the digital area, nor is my mate, but I suggest that the whole process that was used is biased towards those on the assumption that they have good digital skills. I wish to make 3 key points. I strongly support the annual licensing of commercial dog walkers. The fee should be set to cover the actual cost of administration and not cross-subsidised through the annual dog licensing fees. There must be limits on the number of dogs a handler, commercial or otherwise, can walk on in public areas, irrespective of their being on or off lead at any one time. The maximum, in my view, should be 6. Irrespective of the competency of the commercial or domestic handler or the training of the dogs, a handler must be able to intervene and protect the dogs they are responsible for. They will meet less competent and irresponsible handlers and always walk them in public as a pair or a threesome. Only then is it possible to have a total control and able to cope with every eventuality. My second point are really questions, and I'm not expecting them to answer. When designing the exercise areas, did you actually draw upon the data you hold and map the proximity of areas to the number of dogs registered and the age of the registered dog owners? How many of the areas designated as dog exercise areas are the sole responsibility of the Hutt City Council? Conflicts arise along the Hutt River where Greater Wellington decides they will upgrade a path for bike riders, including e-bikes, taking no account of whether the path goes through the designated pony riding and dog exercise area, where Avalon shares the grounds with the pony club. What discussion was held when Greater Wellington, when developing the dog control policy and designating the dog exercise area with a focus on avoiding conflict of interest? My third and final point relates to assessing compliance. Your policy talks about enforcement, but it's all after an event. There are no inspections proposed for promoting compliance. For example, frequency of visits to dog exercise areas, number of dog walkers, check for carrying poo bags and carrying leads, or to checking dogs at collars, harnesses and registration tags. Assessing compliance is essential for successful enforcement. I am a lifetime regulator. Happy to answer questions, and by the way, I have strong views on the use of extender leads. As an instructor, I would never allow them in the class, etc. Sorry, I've run out of time.
It's okay, we'll squeeze in one question from Councillor Brown. Thank you, though.
What do you think of leads on shared paths?
Well, again, there's a nonsense thing about if it's a certain one, it's 10 metres away and it's something rather. I think that they should priority should be given to the dog where it is a dog off-lead exercise area, which is the only area that this council provides for the non-commercial training of dogs. Avalon Dog, Wainui Mata is closed down. If you go to Upper Hutt, if you go to Pairua, if you go to Wellington, those people who are trying their best to help people to have dogs under control have fenced off areas. We instead suddenly upgrade it so that e-bikes and all sorts of things are going through it dramatic. There are very few areas that are not right beside high-speed roads. So Hutt is very poor performer compared to its surrounding those in the other wider Wellington area.
Thank you very much.
An advisory board, there was an advisory board set up with a dog control policy and I was on that. Since then, it seems to have been disbanded.
Thank you, Catherine, for your submission today and all your contribution to dog owners in the city. Thank you. Michael Gendel, do we have Michael? Kia ora, Michael. I'm not sure if you heard, you have 5 minutes to present to us. We have read your written submission. If there's time, you may have a question or two from members.
Yeah, kia ora koutou. Yeah, so ko Michael Gendel tōku ingoa. I'm just here to talk on behalf of my family. And I also tautoko some of the things that have already been said as well. One of the things is Honiana Tapuni Reserve. I completely agree with that becoming a no dog space. That's a par site, and I understand that that's a sacred ground for Te Atiawa. What I'm asking is, can we crib a bit of the beach like they do at Lower Bay? That's what I'm saying. If we take that space away, could you extend the beach area? I know that's not part of the plan, but that's just some thinking that I had for you guys. The signage was another aspect as well. I think on the signage, rather than just say, hey, this is a dog on leash area, give a little bit of reasoning so that the space is understood there, so that the signage has a little bit more detail around it. So if there is any concern, it's covered by the signage. So we understand the purpose of the space, so that that's key. As dog owners, and we've lived in the hut for maybe 20 years now. I think we've always had a dog, and we've seen the decrease in off-lead areas as well. I don't want those areas to decrease. I know that you've got issues with some of the shared areas, but I think we mostly walk from Melling down to Ava. Along the river there. It kind of has the appearance of a paddock. I'd hate with a gravel path through the middle of it. And I understand, there's other users and that it's a shared space. I don't want to see that change at all. Some of the thinking there is that it's mostly dog walkers that use that area. And actually, over the last week, I did just take note, and I saw on 2 occasions, and we're there kind of 2 days a week. I saw on 2 occasions where there were people without dogs within the last week when we were down there, but there wasn't an issue. We've actually never encountered an issue down there, and I haven't. But I'm not there during the day. It's sort of, at the end of the day and the start of the day when we're there. So I don't know what happens during the day, but we don't have any issues there. My other thinking is it is a floodplain at the moment. It served its purpose yesterday. So there's a bit of debris down there, and hey, dogs love exploring that as well. Just the last point that I've got here is we also feel that an open space where there's lots of room, you've got some other dogs, some other dog parks which are fenced off. This is a beautiful open space where dogs can be dogs. There's lots of visual area there where you can see dogs. So hey, if you're a little nervous about them, you can make a decision and move. But we really want that area to be kept as is. If you want a shared space or you want to be somewhere on your bike, you've got the option to go up onto the stop bank and ride along there. So from our family, that's where we're at. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your submission, Michael. Just to clarify, from my understanding in the maps we have here, the Hutt River areas, dog exercise areas, other than requiring the dogs to be on leads on top of the stop bank where you mentioned, actually expanding rather than shrinking, particularly in the north and south.
I'm up for that.
So there are further dog exercise areas at either end of the trails there, but I'm glad to hear that you use it regularly and enjoy that space.
Just not yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much for your submission.
So that, because the other and the previous speaker spoke about the map, about the digital things. The map didn't indicate that as clearly as possible. So what I would suggest is potentially in the process of carrying out the survey is ensuring that that was really clear. It was really ambiguous.
Yeah.
And then I was like, far out, don't change that, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry you couldn't understand it, but I think
That's
the good news is we're
anecdote,
adding rather than taking away along that river trail area. So thank you for coming in today.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Our next submitter is Kevin Goldsbury from Ignite Sport. I saw Kevin come in earlier. Kevin's written submission is on page 194 of our agendas. Welcome, Kevin. You have 5 minutes to present to us today. If you can keep it brief, you might be a question or two to follow up.
Cool.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for, it's good to be here. Just coming from a perspective of Ignite Sport, I'm involved with Ignite Sport Trust at Bill Park, and a little bit surprised that Bill Park was considered to be a potential off-lead exercise area. Redevelopments, council have done a great job at redeveloping the park and creating a walk, running path, exercise stations around the park, seating, picnic tables, and also you possibly would be aware of the development of the Ignite Sports Centre, which is also based on the park along with the artificial courts that are there. So in terms of redevelopment, it's family friendly. Young people are there all the time. Children are often there playing unsupervised. And our concern is that if it becomes a off-lead exercise area, then some of the young people, in particular the younger children, would be at risk. A number of activities are run by Ignite Sport. We have about 1,500 plus young people who come to Ignite Sport each year. Every day they are there, groups of 30 to 40 young people. They are accessing the courts, which is a fenced area, but they also are accessing the wider park as well. Several preschool groups are using the park, we've noticed. Our offices are based there, so we're there every day and see the activities that go on at the park. Preschool groups are using it. Young people are coming, children are coming with scooters and bikes and utilising the pump track that's been placed at Bill Park. And as I mentioned, Ignite Sport's delivering its programs for young people through the day. Bill Park's a thoroughfare. There are children that walk to school through Bill Park. There are adults that walk to work. Currently, it's an on-lead, as an on-lead dog exercise area, it tends to work. We have some issues with some dogs that are off leash. Some of the neighbours have talked to us about some of their smaller dogs being at risk due to a number of dogs that have been off lead. We would consider that having the park as an off-lead dog area would cause inherent dangers to the public, particularly to the young people who use it and the children who use it that are generally unsupervised. As I drove out of the park to come to this meeting today, there was a parent who was walking the track, and her little toddler, would be a preschooler, on a scooter, was riding around the track on the opposite side of the park to the parent. And so the nature of the track allows children to go ahead or to go behind, often parents who possibly are there supervising. So we just don't think that it would be, given the family-friendly, the child-friendly nature of the park, given the activities that Ignite Sport delivers there, we would want to ensure that any dog owner, who are always welcome, would have their dogs on lead and under control. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Do you have questions? I think we've got time just for a quick one, Kevin.
Yeah.
And, this park has been redeveloped over recent years. The maps show that actually the redevelopment has effectively removed an existing dog exercise area. And I think for the community, it is a multi-use park. So I just wondered if you had any thoughts about the fairness of removing a dog exercise area. Google Maps tells me it's 20 minutes to walk from Bell Park to York Park, which is the next nearest dog exercise area, which is quite a long walk for residents of Gracefield to get to the nearest area. Do you think there should be, it's fair to remove, I guess, a provision of dog exercise for the Gracefield community?
I think if dogs are on lead and are well controlled, there's no issue. Currently, that's how the park's been used. And so generally, generally it's not an issue. Being there every day, we do see the dogs that are off lead. And my fear is for it to become an off-lead exercise area, it would attract dog owners to come to the park. I think at the to the despair, I guess, of families that currently use it and young children who use it. So even though we would use the facility through the day during school hours, after school, in the weekends and in holidays, it is often frequented by younger children and families. So and you know, dog owners with dogs on leads hasn't, from our experience, I've been there for 2 years, hasn't been an issue. The minute they're off lead, that'll cause some issues.
Sure. Thank you very much for your submission today, Kevin. Thanks
Thank
for coming in.
Thanks for listening.
Our next submitter is Sally Bain. Sally's written submission is on page 200 of our agenda today. Welcome, Sally. The microphone's been left on for you. You have 5 minutes to speak to your submission, which we've all read, and if there is time, we might have a question or two for you as well. Welcome.
Kia ora. So I am a resident of York Bay, about halfway around towards Eastbourne. I run 2 DOC certified rat specific detection dogs, and I have a 16-year-old mutt who is half blind and pretty deaf now. So that is the main reason I suggested that I would really like to see no bikes on the lower path of the Hutt River, because I get no warning quite often to try and control my dogs, and she needs to run. If she can't run, I may as well put her down now, because that's the only joy she really gets. I also suggested that the beach at the far end of the Seaview Marina should be dogs on lead, or really no dogs at all if possible, because that's where I grew up watching penguins. And I've recently been there and seen there are penguins living in the marina, just on that edge behind the fence and running down that little bit of beach. I think you have perfect vegetation there for further penguin boxes and habitat, and it would cost you next to nothing and they would fill quite quickly. So yeah, I'd love to see that as a no dog area. As a dog owner myself, I think it is a bit sad the way we feel like we're losing spaces. I don't use enclosed dog parks. I just find them dangerous. There are just too many dogs that rush us, and I can't afford to lose my income. My little dogs get one shake and they're gone. Yeah, I think that covers it. Are there anything else I said that you want to ask questions about?
Do you have any questions for Sally, Councillor Brown? Plenty of time there. So just to clarify, Sally, when you talked about the beach at Seaview, there is a dog prohibition area proposed at the end of the beach. You would prefer that it was the whole beach?
Yeah, that point to the end of Port Road there, or that corner of the end of Port Road, where you've got that vegetation.
Yeah, I see that on the map.
You've spent a lot of money around Eastbourne and the bays creating vegetation for penguins. It's already there. Yeah. There were penguins there. I grew up watching penguins under the rock rip-rap there when it was broken concrete. And I'm aware that it was bulldozed for the marina in the middle of summer. There was no thought towards penguins then. And that penguins live in the rock rip-rap. There's been a study done in Sydney, I believe. The less people that walk on the rock rip-rap, the more likely the penguins are to succeed. but also they need that shelter, and I think you have a perfect opportunity for a penguin reserve there. And
Thank
very
you.
very little public use that I know of.
Yeah, and I was curious if you did have any feeling for the public who do use it. Are they likely to be residents of boats on the marina or people who have walked all the way down Port Road off the end of the river trail? Who do you think would use it, if anyone?
I think you get large families who use it in summer, and there's often a lot of detritus left behind after them.
Use the beach as a beach. Yeah.
And there's also a lot of fishermen who tend to back their utes up into behind the vegetation and dump a lot of rubbish. I've reported a lot of rubbish dumped there. There's also a lot of rubbish and stuff dumped in the bushes. As far as people who use it, unfortunately, there's probably a few dog owners who go there to avoid people generally because it's such a quiet little beach. Yeah.
I think that probably answers my question, Sally,
Cool.
and we are up against time, so thank you very much for coming in to submit today. You've made some really good points for us to
good luck.
consider. Thank you. Our next submitter is Gavin Forrest. Kia ora, Gavin. Microphone is on for you, Gavin. We've got a 5-minute time slot for you. We have read your written submission. Feel free to speak to that, and if there's time, we may have a question or two for you as well. Kia ora. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm submitting on the Honeana Te Puna Reserve, just on that. I take my border collie and often my friends, Jack Russell, there every day, basically, even today and even yesterday. So my submission is simple. Please just leave the current off-lead exercise area the same as it is. The proposal for an on-lead area will create significant problems for access to the Korokoro stream, which dog owners take to rinse their dogs, and very, very importantly in the summer for them to get fresh water. We work hard to train our dogs not to drink salt water, very difficult, but they then have access to fresh water at the end. So that's my question, I guess, is what problem you're trying to solve, because I have never identified a problem. And when the development's finished, hopefully it'll be back to a nice area with some grass, etc. But it provides a really great access for dogs right along there.
Short and sweet. Thank you very much, Gavin. Does anyone have any questions? I mean, I have a question. I guess it's bigger picture because, I completely understand why people feel that section of Korokoro stream is ideal, for bathing dogs after they've been on the beach, is what we've heard from a lot of people, B, for drinking water, even though you might not encourage it. Elsewhere, like, for example, right down the other end of the Petone foreshore where there's a dog exercise area, should the council be providing drinking water and potentially bathing facilities at other beaches, do you think?
No, I think it's dog owners' responsibility to do that, but I think what you've got is an ideal situation. I don't think there's any problem in them drinking the fresh water before it goes in the sea, and it's safe. I don't think it has the problems of the Hutt Valley, Hutt River, to my knowledge. And you probably know I'm not a Hutt resident, but I come here every day, spend money in the area, and of course it's nice and easy. It's end of the Hutt Road, really great spot, love it, and the beach is really important for my very boisterous border collie who loves swimming. So, it provides a fabulous service for me.
Thank you very much for your submission today. Thanks for coming in. Now, we've got two more submitters scheduled before we take a break at 11:45, with gaps in between them. If they're here, we'll just take them if they're here. One is Karen Naylor. Is Karen here? Kia ora, Karen. Welcome. And the other one is Margaret Miller. Is Margaret here yet? Okay, thank you, Margaret. Welcome, Karen. The microphone is on for you already.
Great.
And you've got 5 minutes. We have read your written submission, 5 minutes, and if there's time, we will include some questions in that 5 minutes.
Cool.
Thank you.
Cool. Yes, my name is Karen Naylor, and I'm a resident and dog owner in Lower Hutt. I'm here to express my concern and lived experience around the growing issue of irresponsible dog ownership in our community. One of the aims of the Hutt City Council's dog control policy is to support the right for people to move freely around within the city without experiencing danger, distress, or nuisance from dogs. Over the past year or so, my dog, who I've owned for over a decade without major incident, has been attacked twice by other dogs. One of these incidents occurred during what was meant to be a professional dog training session with an owner and the 2-year-old German Shepherd. So it's highlighting a concerning lack of regulation over dog trainers. My dog is a 4.3 Papillon Cross, which is about the average size of a cat. The owner and trainer had no sight or control over the German Shepherd, so my dog was attacked several times before they were able to intervene. So as you can imagine, it was a pretty scary experience for me. The other attack occurred while I was walking my dog on the main street of Kelson, which is a young family area. The incident again was scary as it took a while before someone was prepared to intervene. Well, it was people standing around just watching, but they were obviously too scared to intervene. It was a staffy. When the owner finally turned out, she admitted that the staffy had escaped 2 times previously to this incident. So it wasn't like the first time, which really annoyed me. If it'd been the first time, I probably wouldn't have been so annoyed, but this was the 3rd time the dog had escaped. So now I find myself anxious, even walking down my own street or at the Petone foreshore, where off-leash dogs are increasingly common on part of the beach where people are required to be on leash during the non-daylight saving period. I'd like to be able to go down there, walk my dog on a leash and not have to worry about some dog coming up and attacking my dog, but I can't. And I guess my question to you is, when was the last time someone was actually fined at that beach for walking their dog off leash? And I guess your survey highlights a perceived lack of enforcement, and in my experience, the dog control officers have been slow to respond, often downplaying the seriousness of the attacks and appear to be on the side of the irresponsible owner. In both my cases, it took persistent follow-up just to get any action. The process is distressing and I felt unsupported. It seems that the officers are overstretched and under-resourced, and when the council does respond, there's little sense of justice for the victim. I wanted to find some data that shows a big shift in what I've experienced and what other dog owners have been telling me. So this is the only way I could think of finding some stats. I guess you guys probably have your own, but so this is, I requested some data from the Lower Hutt Hospital just to sort of see if what I was experiencing was showing up in the hospitals. And as you can see, prior to 2024, the hospital admissions or treatment has been sort of tracking between 50 and 80, and then all of a sudden last year it's gone up quite dramatically, and it looks like this year's probably going to be tracking along similar lines. And I've just put in because some of those include attacks by police dogs, which I guess you guys can't do anything about that, but it does show a sharp increase. Yeah, so I guess in summary, I would like to see rules and licences for dog trainers, because currently I've seen this dog trainer at the Kelson off-leash area several times. And I just feel like I can't go back there because she's got no legal responsibility. She should be promoting responsible dog ownership, which she's not. And the other thing I'd like Hutt City Council to do is employ roaming dog patrol officers like some other councils are now doing. And I'd like to also see Hutt City Council monitor and enforce their bylaws, because I see all these signs around, but I don't know if anyone has actually been fined under those sort of provisions.
Thank you, Karen. The bell means I'm going to have to stop you there, and a lot of those points are covered in your written submission. Just a quick question of clarification for me, and very sorry to hear of the incidents with your own dog. The first one you mentioned with the dog trainer, that was in the Kelson dog exercise area. Is that where it took place? The other one was on the street. Yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted to know, was whether or not it was in an on-leash or off-leash area.
Well, the dog came from what should have been a leashed area in the bush, so that's why the owner and the dog trainer had no sight. They were in the bush.
Yeah, thank you. I understand. Thank you very much for coming in to submit to us today. You've made some really good points. And Margaret Miller, kia ora, welcome. Margaret's written submission is on page 226. The microphone is on for you there, I can see, Margaret. We have 5 minutes. If there's time, we might have a question or two for you as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about dogs in Avalon Park. I've lived 2 minutes walk away from Avalon Park for 47 years. I used to run it, but now at 67, I take a dog. I've had a dog for nine years, a pug called Lulu. When I say to Lulu, we're going to the park, she's at the door. She gets her leash on, doesn't come off, and she knows the way to the park. I always carry her across the pedestrian crossing so the traffic's not held up too long. And we walk from Fairway Drive along up Taita Drive on the painted dog path. And I do this about 5 or 6 days a week, or 4. My daily walk with Lulu is our time, and we both love the park. Lulu for the exercise, me for the exercise, and for the gorgeous trees, and at the weekend watching numerous activities for children, and now the youth and adults with the skate park. Walking Lulu in the park is an ideal time for children to learn how to approach a dog who is with its owner. If they are asked to pat the dog, I agree, but only after telling them about getting to know Lulu, where to pat her, because it's important for her to have it on the back, because pugs are very protective of their eyes. If the children are confident, they can give her a treat by holding their hand out flat. It's a golden opportunity for children to learn in a safe, quiet, because the park is normally fairly quiet around the dog paths, with the owner and the dog, and usually a parent who is with the children. People are not so keen to approach a dog with an owner in the street. I want to emphasise that the park is virtually empty all day, 5 days a week, and early mornings at the weekends. Empty. No one there in the play areas. There may be 2 dogs and their owners, plus 1 or 2 runners, but there are no children or activities being used. The exception, of course, is school holidays and public holidays. I've watched the park develop over many years, from a concrete slide to today's skateboard and basketball hoop. It's a fantastic place, we love it. But I think those of us who choose to use the park are entitled to walk our dog on a lead. We pay our city rates, we pay our dog licence, surely that gives us some entitlement to walk our dog. So please think of us as responsible people and allow us to continue to walk our dogs on the existing dog-painted paths. I don't think the council is going to restrict children on their bicycles, their skateboards and scooters out of control, but I don't think the council will prevent them. I don't think I've ever seen a dog and or an owner out of control. There's room for us all. As for picking up dog poo, 99% of the people do. They're not going to run the risk of being banned from our beautiful park in a quiet walk. Lulu and I go all over the marked paths and often stop to feed the rice to the ducks, only rice, nothing, no bread, or sit on a seat to watch the children enjoying the various park activities. It's my opinion that there is room for everyone at the park, children, teenagers, adults and dogs on leads, all over the park, except the children's playground, the bike park in the middle, the new skate park and basketball court. You probably find owners and dogs usually avoid the skate park area when it's busy because it gets crowded at the weekends and the holidays. But the path at the south end of the park, which runs parallel with Fairway Drive, can be safely walked with a dog and avoids these 2 areas. To finish, Avalon Park is a credit to the council and staff. Beautifully maintained, and the skateboard park is just amazing. Very little damage to your equipment, and it's a safe and well-serviced playground and enjoyment walks for all to enjoy. I strongly recommend that the park remain as it is with the existing painted paths enjoyed by everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to represent dogs and owners. Dogs on leads would be great in the whole park. And I have one question. On the map, sorry, I've got your, the roadway runs from the car park.
Yes.
Runs all the way up there. Now, on the footpath there, it's actually dog stamped now, so we can take the dogs. Is that going to be taken away or not?
That footpath on the edge of the park.
It's by the car park.
Yes, is included in what's proposed to be a dog prohibition area.
So how do we get there?
So the path on the top of the stop bank there would remain accessible to dogs on leads.
Okay. And the path I was talking about in front of the skateboard park runs it's inside the park, but it runs along, and there's the hill and things of the park, is what I'm suggesting, because we can still get onto this path here.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you very much for sharing your personal experience of that park. You obviously know and use it really well.
Very well.
Just a couple of quick questions for you. What is it that the park offers that the riverbank doesn't offer? Because the other side of Harcourt Wherry Drive between the road and the river is dog exercise area, north and south.
On the stop bank side, we do use that during the summer sometimes, but there are lots of dogs loose, and it's a bit vulnerable for a pug.
Yep, thank you.
So,
and my other question is,
the trees.
You know and understand really well which paths within Avalon Park are and aren't able to have dogs walked on them. Not everybody knows the park as well as you do. For a first-time visitor to the park, do you think it's clear enough currently which paths they can take a dog on and which paths they can't?
I think there could be a board there with but the one that goes along Fairway Drive and up Tighter Drive is the most used one for dog walkers, and that does sort of back onto the skate park, but it's quite separate. Yeah.
Thank
but
you
no,
very
you could map both ends.
Sure, thank you very
in
much.
Both, car parks, because there's a car park there.
Thank you for your submission today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the only submissions we had scheduled before our break at 11:45, but there are a couple of people here, and if they're down to speak, I'm happy to take you guys early if... Yeah, you're welcome to come up now if you're on the schedule for later. What's your name, sorry? Sarah, we're happy for you to come and do your presentation now so you don't have to wait around. Sarah's written presentation is on page 248. Sarah Weddy, she's on at 12:45, but we'll take her now. Welcome, Sarah. You've got 5 minutes. We have read your presentation, 5 minutes to speak to it. If there's time, we can squeeze some questions in there as well. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm here. July 2022, I was out for a walk and a pit bull jumped a fence and attacked me. So I would like to speak on behalf of people like me, dog attack victims, because I know the dog owners will advocate for their dogs. And I'd like to ask you to please understand that everywhere you allocate an off-leash dog area is somewhere I can't go, right? It's somewhere people with young children are reluctant to go. People with mobility issues, elderly people, and also people whose dogs need to be on a leash. Because I'm a frequent dog sitter, and I know there is an issue when you get an on-leash dog and an off-leash dog, the power imbalance there. So it's not a win-win situation. You are effectively shutting me out of areas in the city. Secondly, areas where leashes are required, frequently dog owners walk their dogs off leash. I'm referring particularly to the section of Petone Beach where leashes are required all the time. and it is never enforced, the leash laws. So I'm also shut out of that section of Petone Beach. So the riverbank, the beach, all the beautiful areas in the city, I'm shut out of those areas. Also, I live in Nainai, and I've lived there for 18 years. In the past 2 or 3 years, the dog roaming problem has gotten much, much worse, and it is very difficult to get animal control to actually show up, to respond in any way. And my experience is you have this like education first policy. It means dog owners know they can get away with anything, right? The dog that attacked me, there wasn't even an infringement notice issued for that, which is very upsetting to be so discounted as a victim. Like, it was a very traumatic event for me, and I feel like just completely discounted by all my interactions with animal control. I'll give you an example. A month ago, off-leash dog, I've complained about it multiple times, attacked an on-leash dog, I report it, no one shows up. That dog is still roaming my street today. And I don't drive, right? So I have to walk out my door. Frequently, I can't leave my house, right? And I've been a huge walker my whole life, right? You always like to talk about encouraging active transport. I was the poster girl for active transport. I don't walk around Nainai anymore. I take the bus from my house to the pool, which is a fantastic facility, thank you very much. I walk on a treadmill and then I catch the bus back. Like, I think that's ridiculous. I think humans should take priority in the city and our safety. So yes, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing that perspective to the table today. It's not one we've heard from today, and very sorry to hear of your experiences with dogs. One thing I notice, I live in Nainai as well, and amongst the local community is a hesitancy to even call animal control because people think something terrible is going to happen to the dogs or the owners. How do you think we shift that in our society to make that a standard practice, that we work together to address the problem with roaming dogs, because it is something that's been raised in other communities. And in fact, the biggest piece of feedback I think we got when we did an initial survey was there are too many roaming dogs in our city. So
yeah, I'm familiar with the problem. There's a pit bull live next door to me. It was out. I've got a security camera, so I saw on the security camera the dog chased a child who came off his bike, chased another bike. There was a person too scared to get out of their car. It was running on the street. Not a single person reported it. Then I report it, and the dog control officer told the owners that someone in the neighbourhood had footage of it. So I got a knock on my door, being harassed by, I don't blame people. It's scary. Like, I've got gang house in my street with pit bulls. It's a scary thing to put yourself on the line. Well, I think it needs to be dog control officers. I know they know this, but they need to be so careful about, giving any identifying data. Like, I'm the only one in my street, I think, with security cameras. So it's obvious if they say security, yeah. Other than that, I don't know. I do know that other people who report and nothing is done, they give up reporting. So part of the answer needs to be that there is a response.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's a suggestion we've had today from the SPCA as well, that we need to be doing something like other councils do. I'll just check if there's any other questions from my colleagues. No. Yeah, Councillor Brown.
Kia ora, Sarah. I mostly want to thank you for coming to the table. I can see that you're very traumatised about what's happened and how brave it is for you to come and speak with us. So I really acknowledge the bravery and the effort that you've come to talk to us. Two things to take on board is the roaming dogs but also the confidentiality when people report, are brave enough like yourself to report. So although we're only meant to be asking questions, I just really want to acknowledge both of those points, and the confidentiality is something that we can certainly take on board and act on. But also the dog roaming, I just want to assure you that it is coming up during these hearings. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. You're welcome to stick around this afternoon, but I'm glad we could squeeze you in a bit early too. I'll just check, is there anyone else who's registered to speak? I think you're the only person in the room who hasn't spoken yet. Are you a registered speaker today? Or are you just listening? Okay. Well, we'll go to our break then as scheduled. It's 11:45 now. Our next presenter is scheduled at 12:30, so we'll come back at 12:30 to resume the meeting. Thank you. Kia ora koutou, welcome back to our hearing today on the dog control policy and bylaw. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, half a dozen more submitters to hear from this afternoon before we break for deliberations. And we will begin with Pauline Marshall. Is Pauline here? Pauline will invite you to the other side of the table here. There's 2 buttons on the bottom of that microphone under the screen. Next one over, I think. Thank you. The right-hand button is the one to turn the microphone on. We have 5 minutes to hear from you. We have read your written submission already, but feel free to summarise it. And if there's time, we may have a question or 2 for you inside that 5 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And we were just chatting about what a pleasure and a treat it is to live in a society where you can do this when clearly you don't agree with the initial draft of what's put forward. So you've said you've read my submission, so I won't bore you by going back over it in total. But I guess the point that I really wanted to make, because I find that a lot of the people who actually walk on the Eastbourne Beach have no idea that the area that I'm talking about, which is the mass of shingle from Miro Street down to Lions Rock, she's pointing crazily, has only been formed over the last 30 years. So the notion of customary rights or anything like that is not pertinent. There are a lot of people who come round to Eastbourne, a lot of citizens of the Hutt from all over the Hutt Valley come round to Eastbourne to play in the Greenwood Park and for their kids, for their dogs to go on the beach. The beach itself is singularly unattractive to anyone other than a dog owner because it's just shingle until you get right down under the water, and then occasionally you're lucky and you find sand. So my contention is that this would be an ideal place to have an off-lead area that dogs can, and their owners can, romp freely and just enjoy the fact that, we're living in this fantastic environment. I mean, even today I was down there, and despite the fact that southerly was roaring through, it's still an amazing place to be. As I put in my submission, it's not the sort of area where people like to go with their kids. You can't wheel a stroller across it. There are all sorts of limitations in terms of family use of it, but it is an ideal open space for dogs to make the most of their time. And yes, in recent years, I think the last 5 years, there have been fences put up for dotterel protection, etc. There are very few dotterels. The dotterels don't read the signs, so they don't stay within the boundaries. The seagulls certainly don't read the signs. The cats don't read the signs. The rats don't read the signs. So I would like to suggest that the dotterels could be rehoused further round past Burden's Gate, where their chances could well be better because there are none of those domestic, well, certainly none of the cats. I don't know if there are rats around there as well, but we just, and a whole lot of my dog mates feel the same, that this would be an ideal place where our dogs can get lots and lots of exercise. We can talk about the joys of life and just enjoy the world in which we live. Dog owning is a very social activity, and it's just a great way of communities coming together. At the moment, the ambiguity and the lack of signage around there compounds the problem. So I'd like to suggest that whichever way you go, there is clear and adequate signage. You're still going to have people, because a lot of the people think, well, it's our beach, we'll just do what we want anyway. But I think the position becomes somewhat more defendable if there is clear signage, and so people from out of the zone, instead of just blurting out a string of expletives when we tell them, hey, you're not actually supposed to be romping around here, they actually have some warning and they can go elsewhere if they really want to. So that's really all that I wanted to say, but I do appreciate the opportunity of having a say.
Pauline, we had a submission earlier in the day from Meador, the conservation group, who are very active in your neighbourhood, including with the dotterels in the area you describe. And I put it to them, your suggestion that the dotterels could be rehomed south of Burdens Gate. The dotterels aren't homed on that beach. They choose that beach of their own volition. There's no nesting boxes provided for them or anything like that. It just happens to be the ideal habitat for them, I think, is why they choose that beach there. They didn't think it would be possible to try and rehome those dotterels who nest there every summer. So with that in mind, is there a way you can envisage that we could have dogs and those birds interacting safely without having to relocate the dotterels somewhere else?
The nature of the beach and the extreme tidal fluctuations make it really quite difficult to ascertain, the notion of the high tide mark, the low tide mark, in theory, in a textbook looks great, but the reality is it's very different around there. So the extreme high tide, the sea comes right up against the seawall. So in the last 15 years, I'd say there've been about 2 or 3 occasions when the sea has been right up against the seawall. So is that the high tide zone? I don't know. So, some clearer definition and some perhaps even permanent flags along the areas that are deemed to be the most appropriate. But there is no way that, in my view, that dogs and dotterels are compatible. I think, it's one or t'other. Being brutal, and I've got to be brutally realistic with myself too, that this is just the reality. It's like when dogs see seagulls on the beach. There is a game on sense. So I think if there was a clear, permanent line which said, okay, in the dotterel breeding season, from August to the beginning of August, and being precise, 1st of August, 28th of February, no dogs are to go on the land side of these flags. The rest of the year, it's fine. But anything that is, I think it has to be black and white. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Thank you
really
very
appreciate
much.
the fact that you even put the suggestion to Miro. I think that's great, because it's very easy to get extremely evangelical about these matters.
Sure.
But the fact that it is being suggested is fantastic.
Thank you. We'll take a good look at it, and thank you for coming in to submit today.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
And I wish you well for the rest of the hearings.
Lyle Earl. Kia ora, Lyle. Good. We've got 5 minutes to hear from you, Lyle. We have read your written submission, but feel free to summarise that. If there's time, we might squeeze in a question or two. You got something to pass
I
around
have
to
a
us?
plan, which I thought if you look at this
Yeah,
while I'm talking, it makes it a lot easier.
Sure. Yeah. If Catherine can hand them around as well. Thank you. Thank you, Lyle. Whenever
Okay,
you're
so
ready.
it's working, is it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so my submission is my submission's copied there, but you don't need to look at it if you just look at the plan. My submission is to do with the Te Puni Reserve at the western end of Petone Beach. And the current proposal is to change it from an existing off-lead dog exercise area effectively to an on-dog exercise area. My point is that currently many dog owners take their dogs down there. They park in the car park. You can see on that plan on the right. They walk their dogs off-lead down to the wharf and back, and the dogs swim in the sea and roll in the sand and seaweed and what have you, and they take them up to the Korokoro stream at the left-hand end of that plan, and they swim, get clean, and then they go take them back to their cars to take them off. This would prevent that from happening because you can't actually have dogs swimming on lead in a stream because you just get a tangled mess of dogs. It's just not practical. My view is it's essential that we retain the ability for dogs to swim there because it cleans them after they've been in the sea and rolling in the sand and what have you. as well as that is a nice fresh, water, clean. The Korokoro stream's not affected by toxic algae. I've been walking there for 8 years and it never has. It's a beautiful stream. Summer, the Hutt River always seems to be warnings you can't swim your dog in there because we have now toxic algae. So there's very few places in summer where you can swim your dog safely. So my request is that we somehow retain the ability for dogs to be able to swim off lead in the Korokoro stream. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do it. The yellow area to the right of that plan is where the current off-dog area ends. You could require people to put their dogs on the lead there, walk them down to the stream, let them off swim in the stream, put them on again, walk them back to the car park, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's very pragmatic. I suggest that somehow we provide a link or a continuation of the off-lead area so that you can take your dog down there. I've shown on here in the sort of the pink what I think is the absolute minimum you could provide. Essentially what I've shown there is about a 5 metre wide track that follows the path against the sea around and then opening out at the stream where the dogs run in and out, people throw sticks for them and so on. You could vary that area. I noticed that in that green area in the middle of this plan has now been built up by, and it's several metres high, so it may be more practical to change the edge of that barrier to the foot of that because it might be a more logical, barrier or delineation of where dogs are allowed to be off lead. I've tried to find online what the development is proposed and then I couldn't find anything what people are proposing. So that's as far as I can make out is kind of a minimum that you could do to retain that ability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lyle. That's a very practical suggestion. Does anyone have any questions for Lyle? Pretty straightforward and easy to understand. Thank you for your submission and
cool.
we'll take it into consideration. Our next submitter is Erin Cassidy, I think is here too. Kia ora, Erin. Microphone is on for you already, Erin. You've got 5 minutes to speak to your submission, which we have read. And if there's time within that 5 minutes, we might have a question or two for you. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Is it okay just to read from mine? Thank you. I also want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I do appreciate it. I'm also here to speak in support of maintaining the current off-dog lead exercise area at the west end of Petone Beach. It's an incredibly important space for dog owners. It's one of the few accessible areas where dogs can run off lead, socialise, enjoy the beach and have access to that freshwater stream. I think that's the key part for me, is the access to the stream, the freshwater. It's not only just for dogs and dog owners. Lots of families go down there and in summertime you'll see them having fish and chips. Their dogs are playing, the kids are playing in the stream. I guess you've been down there. It's a nice, it's not too deep, it's shallow, kiddies can play, dogs can play. Lots of us use that daily and it's not just for their physical and mental well-being but also for ours. I heard another lady talk about the community and the connection when you meet together and you talk about your dogs and they're doing their thing. I understand you even need to balance the different uses of our shared spaces, but I believe that the current setup is a good balance. The West End, it has its signposts, dog owners know, swimmers are further back. Yeah, I guess I just urge the council to maintain that current designation and to recognise the value that that space has for dogs owners, families, connections. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Erin?
No.
I had one, Erin, in your written submission, in the discussion about shared paths, you talked about removing the stop back path from dog on lead.
Yes.
I just wanted to note that that's not our proposal. The only places in the city where dogs on leads are not allowed are the pink areas in the maps we produced. They're dog excluded areas. Any other area dogs are allowed as long as they're on a lead, including on the footpath or the street. Yeah, some people, the maps weren't clear enough or quite what it was. So there's no proposal to remove dogs on leads from stop bank paths.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for.
Thank you for coming in today. Thank you.
Do I turn that on?
Yes, you can just leave it for now. I'll check if Elizabeth Ferry is here. We're running ahead of time because we accommodated one of our speakers earlier. Kia ora, Elizabeth. That mic is on for you. We have 5 minutes to hear from you. We've read your written submission. Feel free to summarise that, and if there's time, we might have a question or two for you. Welcome.
Well, I'm speaking in support of retaining dog exercise area at the western end of Petone Beach. And I basically have the same comments as the two previous speakers. I walk every day. I walk with 2 other people and their dogs. We walk in all weathers, and the freshwater area at the end of the beach is the highlight for many dogs. One of the dogs I walk with is a greyhound. For 6 months of the year, it walks right into the middle of the stream and stands with the water lapping its stomach and its eyes closed. It just loves it. You can't do that on a lead. And I think that it is also the physical geography of the stream. It gives people the opportunity to socialise, dogs and people. Dog lovers admiring each other's dogs. And I think that builds a sense of community. And I think that's a very important thing to bear in mind, that there are fewer areas where that can happen. And I think that this is important. And it's not just Hutt Valley dog owners that in my talks where people tell me their life stories, they also tell me that they're in Wellington and they've come all the way to the Hutt and they're going to do the op shops, Kmart and walk the dog, and it's an important draw card for them. Further on the other side of the stream, it's more sheltered, that when the wind is blowing a storm up, you can get a sheltered place over the other side. One of my fellow walkers suggested that was quite a good area for more anxious dogs, that you didn't meet as many dogs there, and that was a good place to walk. I think that dogs like sand and beach, but they also love grass. I think that if there are concerns about cyclists and a cycleway going past there, I think that clear signage saying dog exercise area, slow pedestrians might cause them to modify behaviour. But actually, there is a clear view past the stream. It's not a surprise that there are dogs there. Cyclists can clearly see. I think that the area of greater conflict is from the rowing club towards the wharf, to the area between the rowing club and the pumping station, where there are bends and foliage obscuring the view. That is where greater, I won't call it conflict, that is where there are greater safety concerns. I think by the stream, it's, safe.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor? No, thank you very much for coming in today. As you've noted, we've heard very similar comments from a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you coming to share as well. Okay, we have 2 more people on our schedule. We're running a little ahead of time, but they're both here. Mirren, I think you're up next. Kia ora, welcome. Mirren's written submission is on page 260 of our agenda. Mirren, we've got 5 minutes to hear from you. We've read your written submission. If there's time within the 5 minutes, we might have a question or 2 for you as well. Yep. Kia ora, welcome.
Thank you. My written submission was an answer to questions, and I get to control the thing. Thank you. I wasn't sure how that worked. I've done a little PowerPoint about a couple of general points about dog control. So I went to my local dog exercise area because that's where I knew I could see what was going on a little bit. And this is what I found. There are 6 entrances to Petone Rec, but there's only 2 signs. So you could go in and out of the rec without seeing those signs. Here's one of them. It's rather old. It was only recently I discovered that dogs were prohibited from playing surfaces. I'm not a dog owner, so I hadn't really taken notice of that. And this is the other sign. This is a clear sign, fairly recent, at the eastern Udi Street gate. So the important point there is excluding sports services, which is kind of a bit of an oddity because you can run your dogs around the outside edge, but people actually prefer to throw a ball for their dog and things like that, but that's not really allowed there. However, this is the other entrance that's near my house. It's got a very old COVID sign and no drinking sign. Over to the left, you can't see very well, but it's got the thing about the sports field and then a couple of ads. And that's all very well, but nothing to tell dog owners. So the signposting is not always adequate, and I think that was mentioned in this survey about the education. And most people follow the rules. And here's somebody, and she actually said to me, the dogs were sort of pulling a bit, and she said, oh, they want to go on the grounds, but she didn't let them. But she's actually got them on a leash. And this woman is running around the perimeter, definitely exercising the dog and herself. However, this is often what you see. Sorry, it's a cell phone photo and I wasn't going to go on the grass. 2 dogs, probably under control, but actually they're not supposed to be there. And here they are just to show that they're on the sports field. Now, you could change those rules, but I guess my point there is some people don't follow the rules. Just a minority, I would say. There's heaps and heaps of excellent dog owners and 1 or 2 who perhaps just take things into their own hands, and the lack of signposting doesn't help. The problems come, not probably in lovely places like I've heard about the end of the beach, but along the riverbank. 3 situations from family and friends. Sometimes a dog that's not under excellent control rushes across the path when you're biking or walking. A responsible dog owner friend told me that her dog sometimes gets approached by a dog rushing up to her dog, which she doesn't like, and she has to say, can you call your dog off? And my son, who said, well, it's a bit scary to take the kids to practice biking on the path because, you don't know what about the dogs. And that's on the path, not on the grass. So generally, I'm in favour of where the dog exercise areas are, but I think there's something missing, and it's one is clearer signposting, and the others is some form of visible enforcement. And I know it wouldn't be very often, but I'll give you an example. I live near the Dowse interchange, and once in a while, there is a police car sitting there to stop the people illegally going right round to beat all the other cars to get on the road to Wellington. So it's kind of a deterrent. And the same in Hutt Road from time to time. The guys are out doing alcohol testing. If you know you might meet them, perhaps you're deterred from the thing you're not supposed to do. So here's what I'd like to see. Clearer signposting on all dog exercise areas and more visible enforcement by council.
Thank you, Miriam. Very good suggestions. Thank you. Did anyone have a quick question? No, feel good. Thank you very much for coming in today. And our final submitter is David Tripp, representing the Hutt Cycle Network. David's written submission was included in an attachment here. It was in the bigger pack we received earlier of submissions as well. But I think David was a late addition, so it was in a different slide pack. But welcome, David. Kia ora.
Thank you. Kia ora. Thanks for turning the heating on. Just some data to start with. You currently have 400,000 trips per day by any mode in Hutt City. Most of those are by cars, 1,600 by bike, giving cycle mode share about 0.5%. Your climate change targets require, in the next 5 years, for it to look the right-hand column, significant drop in car trips. Bike trips would need to rise to about that level, giving a 6% mode share. By the way, that's achievable. Christchurch already does better. That's a flat city surrounded by a few hills, just like us. The relevant thing here is that bike trips need to rise from 1,600 to 24,000. That means for every cycle you see today, in 5 years' time, you need to see 15. For every cycle, think 15 cycles. David, this is about dog control. What are you talking about transport for? Well, many of the popular dogs exercise areas are key cycle routes. All the river trails, the L'Esplanade, and in those situations, dog walker, dog and cycle conflict is already an issue. And you need to get 15 times the number of cyclists into those same spaces in 5 years. Unfortunately, your dog control policy doesn't address this, and in my view proposes no change. You're going to educate us, as you have been doing in the past, and you have not allocated any more money for further education, so the same continues. We have a problem. I disagree with the statement. Everything that you consider has climate implications. We have to recognise that how we approach the future in terms of climate change needs to be wired with everything we do, because it is. So, shared paths. I'm clearly of the view that separation of cyclists and walkers on all main routes is necessary. The Environment Court said this in its Riverlink decision, but to place an unfenced cycle path in any area specifically designated as a dog playing exercise area is to knowingly impose a risk for all users. However, Council's not acting on that on these key routes. In Riverlink, Council is supporting the removal of separated paths that were in the consented design along the Esplanade, which is a wonderful space, but path separation that was planned along the Esplanade has been deferred. Just think of that one cyclist there replaced by 15 cyclists. It's not going to be fun for anyone. So our recommendation that cycle-only paths that have been consented for Riverlink, and even the Beltway, for example, which is cycle-only, should be dog excluded in the dog control policy, just to emphasise the point. On shared paths that are part of your Hutt City strategic cycle network, they're the arterial routes. I don't know what you do, but this is the best we could come up with in the face of the conflicts that are converging in that space, is to ban stretchy leads. Because a stretchy leads means you can have a person there and the dog there, and you've got to ride between. It doesn't work. And on the Esplanade, which is a real problem, it's a lovely space. You're building an $80 million cycleway at one end, a $300 million cycleway at the other end. Here's your connection. It's going to get busy. Can we please see that coming? Just some comments about Te Aratupua, the cycleway from Petone to Naronga. It's a key and very expensive cycle route, and it is forecast to have thousands of cyclists per day. Its primary purpose will be significantly negatively affected by the presence of dogs, either on or off lead. The consent conditions from the fast track process in 2020 noted that Hutt City Council will need to consider the dog control issues on this. We've raised that a number of times. It still hasn't come through in this dog control policy. In terms of the reserve, we support it going from dogs off lead to dogs on lead. The issue is actually it's not our land, it's iwi land. I think they should get to decide. But the main cycle path along the seaward side of the on-ramp is going to be a busy cycle area that should be dog excluded. It's not going to work otherwise. And on the path itself, our clear view is that it should be a dog excluded path. Cyclists and dogs do not mix on such a high-speed arterial route. It was a new facility specifically for transport purposes, and in 15 years on the advocacy of that route, demand for further dog walking facilities was never part of its objectives, never raised once. And if you're not concerned about the cyclists, can we please do it for the penguins? We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars relocating and then bringing back the penguins to specifically designed penguin homes along that whole coastline. The environmental officer for Te Aratupua will tell you that not only are dogs off leads an issue for penguins, but a penguin out at sea will not land if it can see a dog. So there's the, it's there for, it was built as an alternative cycle route, but if you don't care about us, please care about the penguins. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, David. Always appreciate your submissions and the network submissions, so thank you all. Earlier today, we heard from NZTA, and their position on Te Aratupua is that dogs should be allowed on leads. Just wondering if you have any direct response to that.
I think it's balmy. I honestly don't think how you're going to have 2,000 cyclists a day, minimum, biking 30, 40 kilometres an hour along there, when that is your primary purpose for the route, and have walkers and dogs on there, even on leads, particularly stretchy leads, which are 5 metres long and will cover the whole path. I just think, I struggle to understand why we're spending so much on something and diminishing that purpose by allowing something else that was never part of its objective.
Thank you. And I just wanted to ask quickly too about the pathway on the other side of the harbour, Tupua-Horonuku. There are parts of it which are open for use currently, and that one does allow dogs to be walked on leads on it, as the current status. Have you heard from your members or from the cycling community of particular issues already on that shared pathway?
No, but what I can tell you is about the survey we did for when we were submitting on Riverlink, where we surveyed wildlife cyclists, and dogs consistently came up as an issue. It's not that we do not like dogs. Dogs are fine, but dogs on leads and cyclists don't mix, for the same reason that we don't allow people to walk their dogs on the motorway. It's a dumb idea.
Thank you, David. Any further questions? Yeah, Councillor Brown.
Thanks, David. Yeah, there's been a few submissions, and one of them was NZTA. For the shared paths, are you primarily focused on Te Aratupua? In regards to Te Aratupua, I agree with you that the speeds that the cyclists would be allowed to or continue to use is always going to be predominant. It's not like, but for the other shared pathways like Wainuiomata, Eastbourne, if the leads were non-retractable, it's, you know, on the shorter leads, are you supporting might be too strong a word for you, because I hear that you want dogs right off, but in essence, for many, dogs is their exercise, and we always want everyone exercising in whatever form that they have. So the other shared paths, putting aside Te Aratupua?
I'm all in favour of exercise, which is why more people should get on their bikes. Just to clarify, Te Aratupua into Wellington is what's called a segregated path. There is a cycle bit and a walking bit, except the walking bit's so narrow that you're not going to fit a dog walker and a dog on that. They're going to have to spill into the cycle space, which is why I think it's unsafe. And dogs don't follow the lines. They don't follow the signs. In terms of the other spaces, for example, round the eastern bays, you've only got one path. Everyone's got to sort of coexist safely on that. I think that's unfortunate. If we're serious about the change we need to see in our transport system, we've actually got to think separated. There it's expensive. We've gone shared. So we just got to make it work. It's interesting, the The cars still get their dedicated route and everyone else goes on, on the path on the side, just saying. But I think the stretchy leads is an added hassle when you're trying to avoid conflict with each other.
Thank you, David. Just what you mentioned about Te Ara Tupua, the paths being separated, do you mean spatially separated? Or is it just a line on the...
Paths come in three categories: shared, mixed in together, segregated, which means adjacent with nothing in between. The best example is in the bottom of Kaiwharawhara. There's different surfaces, painted lines, but nothing in between. So separated or segregated, which means there's something in between that says clearly, a wall, planting, whatever. I've forgotten your question.
Te Ara Tupua was the middle.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
thank you.
and reinforce its objective was for transport, and we need it to hum as a transport route for motorists as much as for cyclists. And so to compromise that by allowing a further dog exercise area that no one ever needed or said we needed seems to me shooting ourselves in the foot.
Thank you very much. Can I get you to turn the mic off there? You are the last submitter today, so thank you for making it in. Thank you, and thank you to all the other submitters who have come in today as well. Just before we close off and move into confidential deliberations, I'll just remind everyone who's still here and anyone who's listening online, this subcommittee will make recommendations on potential changes to the policy and the bylaw. That then goes to our Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee. They will consider an updated version on the 1st of July, and then it goes to full council for approval on the 31st of July. So if you want to follow through the process, it will next be reappearing at the Policy, Finance and Strategy Committee on the 1st of July. But thank you for your submissions today, and also to all the other people who couldn't make it in today but made written submissions and did our survey as well. So I will ask our officers to bring up on the screen a closing karakia. You're welcome to join. Me karakia tātou. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia e te urutapu nui, kia wātia, kia māma, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua i te arataka tū. Koe ara I rongo, whakaerehia aki ki runga, kia wātia, aira, kua wātia, hau pai māriri. Thank you very much. I declare the public